Story 1. There's only one thing I'm here to ask. If you get one chance to be kind to someone who's always been cruel to you, would you do it? Also, do you always help your family even if they don't deserve it? I guess that's two things to ask, but both of those are the same one for me. Right now, I have a chance to be kind to someone who's been cruel to me since the day I've known her. And she's also a part of my family, but she definitely does not deserve my help. Do I take the high road, or do I give her a big load of nothing that'll probably teach her to be kind to everyone? I guess I should explain a little better. Hey, I'm Ray, 32, male, and I've been happily married to my beautiful wife, Leah, for over 4 years. The person I'm talking about is Leah's sister, my sister-in-law, Natalie. See, Nat has always had a problem with me, and to explain this, I need you to just take a few years back, when things between me and Leah were just getting serious. So back when we were dating, Leah, one day, asked me if I was comfortable meeting her family. I kid you not, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I was almost like the girl who had been in a great relationship for a long time but had not gotten a ring and was waiting for one. Well, since I had already introduced Leah to my mom on, like, our 8th date, I've been waiting for her to take me to her family. For people who are thinking that it was too fast, well, it was not sort of her traditional introduction. Before she passed away 10 years ago, my mom was the only family I had left. She and Dad had both ran away from home to chase their dreams, and after Mom had me, Dad just bolted. He probably is out there somewhere, but I don't know him. See, Mom, she passed away without ever telling me about her home, as I assume she's probably had a rough life there. So that left me with no living family that I know of. You know, Dad, yeah, he might be alive, but he's dead to me, so it doesn't matter. So, on our 8th date, which was Halloween, I took Leah to the cemetery to introduce her to my mom. No, it wasn't creepy. We had a kind of a picnic there, and it was very fun. So ever since then, I've been waiting for her to ask me to meet hers. She took her time, and I'm glad that she did, because by the time I met my future in-laws, I was sure that Leah was the girl I was going to marry. She took me to her home for lunch, and I had a great time. A grand old time. Both her parents were lovely, and even though they asked a few tough questions, I performed well. I even got them impressed, and, well, I had the impression that they really liked me and decided that I was good enough that Leah someday would marry me. The only, bad mark on that day was her younger sister, Nat, who also happens to be the person she loves the most. Even though I never had a sibling, I can understand the love that she has. So I tried especially hard with her, but during the lunch I just could not get through to her. It was like she wasn't even interested in talking to me, and had already thrown me out of her sister's life without even giving me a chance. So when we were leaving, she came close to me and told me that I was not right for Leah and that just went to her room, which was incredibly weird. But I didn't mention it to Leah, as I didn't want her to stress at all. That's because I took that as a bad first impression, and I just told myself, what if she disliked me from the first time? I would grow on her slowly, right? Yeah, spoiler alert, I did not grow on her at all. I think I kinda did the opposite. No matter how many times I talked to her and took her out and tried to help her and understand her, Natalie just kept shutting me down and never liked me. And this actually affected my relationship with Leah a bit. See, when Leah found out that her sister did not like me one bit, she was quite upset. I think Nat had told her to break up with me as she saw me as probably unfit to date her sister. Leah was upset with her for suggesting that instead of trying to get to know me better. Even though I never showed her, Leah had seen me put in effort to get her sisters to like me. But no matter how much she didn't want to think about it, Natalie not liking me, well, it did affect her thinking a bit. She's never told me this, but I know for sure that at one point she was second-guessing if I was the right guy to be in a fixed relationship with. We both know that the road we're walking down led to marriage. I saw her doubting me sometimes, and I never tried to push her because I wanted her to be sure no matter what. And one day she was just magically sure about us. A few months after that, I proposed, as her whole family had started treating me as one of their own, and I always was, sure of her. See, for me, this relationship has never been just with Leah. Maybe it's because I didn't have a family, and I wanted to have a great relationship with hers. I wanted to truly be a part of their family with all the problems and benefits you get with one. The only problem was that Natalie still did not like me, and before proposing I even asked her, but she tells me that she was never going to like me. She actually told me to give up on her sister. After I proposed, I guess she got pretty mad by it. We had several celebration parties in the family home. Then after one of those parties, Leah's cousin calls me up and tells me that Natalie was planning something. She heard Natalie talking to her friend and was planning on breaking up the engagement by lying to Leah that I cheated on her with Natalie's friend. Oh, obviously, since I discovered this early, I was able to warn Leah. And when Natalie tried this on her, all she got was a really angry sister screaming at her for trying to sabotage her life. Leah did not speak to her for weeks, which only made my relationship with Natalie worse. But in the end, Leah forgave her, and Nat had to apologize to me, which she did, but I could see that it was killing her on the inside. Even after we got married, Nat still did not consider me her family. One day, I even tried to forget the past and start fresh with her, but she just told me to get the hell out of her life. Now, you guys tell me what more could I have done. But I still don't give up, and I keep trying. I wanted her to also be part of my family, just like her parents and Leah. But it never happened. No matter how much effort I put in, Natalie, on the other hand, always tried to look for things to insult me or embarrass me about. One day, she found out that I made less money than my wife. I just started a clothing business. I'm the owner. Which, by the way, is doing well. Now, here's the part to remember. During a family and friends get-together, she embarrassed me really badly. She kept talking about the fact that I lived on my wife's money and that I was nothing more than a housewife. I mean, come on, in this day of age, this is not really offensive. But what she trying to imply was that I was a bad bet, and that I could not even take care of Leah. Everybody asked her to stop, but she just kept talking. Well, I defended myself as best as I could until Leah heard about it and shut it down, saying that in a few years she would be swimming in money, which funny enough came true. And she even said that if she was paying for everything I had and did, she was still going to be very happy even if I was broke. What a woman. It was after that I started getting the feeling that I did not want her to be my family. Natalie, for no reason at all, genuinely hated me and could not even tolerate me for an hour without insulting me. I tried so much with her. I'd been so understanding, but at that point I gave up. I didn't like the fact that she could not even fake being nice to me for her sister, who loved her so much. So after that, I just completely stopped trying. I never quite forgot the less earning joke that she made, and now a few years later my business has turned into quite a success, and Leah now just works for fun. We've earned a lot of money and are living a happy life, and now throughout these years my relationship with Natalie has kind of remained the same. She still hated me, or at least hated me until a few days ago, and I couldn't care less about her. See, about 2 years ago, she moved out of her parents' place and started a business herself. She could have come to me for help, but she didn't, and she's regretting it now. You know, before, she moved out, I saw less and less of her after she did. So we have not had a bad interaction for several months now, if I'm being honest with you. But about 3 days ago, she contacted me and asked me to meet with her. I was surprised because she didn't tell Leah anything about it. So we talked, and it turns out she needs some financial assistance from me to keep the business running. It's funny how life brings stuff back like this. I mean, am I right? Well, she did not find it funny, and what is worse is that she even tried to act like she's changed now and apologize for never accepting me. I don't know why she thought I would buy that. She gave me a sob story about her dream dying and me being the only person in her life with the power to save it. By that, she means I have a lot of money, and she needs that lot of money, which neither her parents nor her sister can give. Even though I felt like telling her then and there that I was not going to give her a penny because of how she had been, I could not, because I've always seen her as my own sister too, and no matter how much I deny it, not helping her is going to hurt both Leah and me. The fact that she could have gone to her parents or sister and then made them ask me but didn't makes me believe that she at least wants to change. Giving her the money is not going to be a problem, but I'm still in a dilemma about whether I should do it. I didn't hear her no or yes, but I've asked her for a week to decide. She was happy to wait for my answer, and I kept thinking, what if, by doing this, I can change our relationship? Since I can't really decide, I'm asking you guys. Should I help her, or am I going crazy for thinking this is an okay idea? Please give me some advice. Update number 1, 2 months later. Hey guys, it's been 2 months since my last update, and there's a reason why it took so long to give you guys an update, right? So after about a week of my post, I already made the decision. And I can tell you guys right now that I made a huge mistake. Let me explain. So after I told you guys about my situation, I decided that I need to tell my wife. As no matter what I did, she was going to find out in a few days anyways. So I told Leah, and at first she was mad at everything. She was asking me for help. But in a few hours she cooled down and told me that I should help her. That was the answer I was expecting from her, as she can never really turn off her love for her sister. She also spoke with her parents, who told me to only help if I really wanted to. You see, Leah did not choose for me and told me that she was going to be happy either way, but did want me to be the big man. I told her I was already leaning towards helping her, so her words were just helping me make a decision even faster. So I gave it a bit of a thought and found that even without my wife and in-laws' influence, I wanted to help out Natalie, and maybe she would turn over a new leaf with me. Genuinely, the only reason I helped was to have a good bond with her. Because of me, Leah did not, get to see her that much. And I knew that it made her sad. So I wanted to go ahead and change that. I myself wanted a sister too, so it was an absolute win-win. Well, let me just tell you, I was very, very wrong. When I gave Nat the money, she was extremely happy. And told me that she had misjudged me from the start. After thanking me several times, she went back, and then I did not hear from her for over a month. After that, I was about to write an update, but I got busy with work, and then Leah got into a small accident. Nothing major, and I forgot about you guys. A week after the accident, I noticed that Nat had neither called nor came to visit. Leah said that she had not been able to contact Natalie for a while now. So maybe she was just busy. Her parents said the same thing, which got me curious. Another week went by, and then I started getting really worried. I thought that she was probably having a lot of trouble in her business, and I didn't want to seem like I was getting all up in her business, so I had a supplier friend check out how her business was doing. Today I found out that over a month before she even approached me, she already sold her business. Since it was not making as much money as she assumed, she'd sold it to someone who wanted to reach from it. But the business had never been in any sort of trouble. I guess now you're wondering, then what it was she was doing, and why did she take my money? Well, I don't know the full story, as I have not spoken to her myself, but I did contact a few of her friends to find out. One of her close friends told me that she was actually having a very lavish vacation, and throwing parties and enjoying her best life with my money. Can you believe it? This is some woman who accused me of making less money and now begged me just to do this? This was so hard to believe that I had to reconfirm from another friend that she had actually done this to me. When I discovered this about her, that's when I remembered that I had not written an update here. I can't understand for the life of me why she did this to me, or what should I do next? She's coming home in a few days, and I'm definitely going to confront her. Also, I've not told my wife because she has not come home from work. Plus, now that I have the whole story, I can tell her what precious sister of hers did with the business and my money. Here I was thinking that I was finally going to have her on my side of the family too, but it turns out that instead of getting better, she got worse. How are people like this? Update number 2. It's been a few weeks. Hey, it's been a few weeks, and yes, the confrontation happened, but I can surely say that it did not go as any of us, you included, expected. So, a lot of things happened, including my swearing off from ever thinking of Nat as family again, so please let me explain. A few hours after my update, my wife came home, and I told her about everything, and by everything, I mean everything, including things I had hidden about her sister treating me really, well, like this. Obviously, she was the most hurt by lying and taking my money to use it on herself, and at first refused to believe that it was true. Just like me, she had a hard time processing that some people actually do things like this, even to the people that they should care about. Like, she literally tried to scam me by telling me that she was going to fix her business. Instead, she went on a holiday and had a great old vacation. Leah, after looking at the picture she posted about the trip, got really mad and tried to call her, but it did not go through. I told her to calm down, as she was coming home in a few days anyways, and after Leah did calm down, she tells me that we need to tell her parents ASAP. So then the very next day, when we went to her parents and told them every single thing that happened, they also could not believe that their daughter could do something like this. And it took some time to convince them to, the reality of the situation. But after that, they were ready to help me. A day after Natalie came home, she was invited by my father-in-law for lunch and some work. Well, that work was just an excuse to confront her. As soon as she saw me, she knew that it was about to go down. So me and my wife confronted her about what she did, and my in-laws listened. When Leah told her that she was very disappointed in her behavior, she went ahead to say nothing wrong. She said she did nothing at all. Her business had failed in her eyes, and she used the money I gave her to settle the loans that she had spent the rest on her. She said that I was the selfish one here, as I had agreed to help her and now was going back on my word. I told her that I genuinely cared about her, and that's why I gave her the money, as I wanted her to succeed in life. I told her that I did not give her the money to fool around and cheat me. She remained silent and just listened, and when both me and Leah asked for my money back, she just straight up said no. She said that she did not need to pay the money back as we had enough and she did not steal it. She said that I gave it to her voluntarily, so I told her I was asking for it back voluntarily. And she just said she didn't have it. At that point, her father gets mad and asked her if that was the way to act when you have made a mistake. And she just said that she hasn't made a mistake. Yeah, I couldn't believe her audacity. And this made me so mad. Not only because she was acting like I was a fool, but also because this was hurting Leah very much. So I told her that for years, I had tolerated her because I thought of her as my sister, but I was wrong. I told her that I should have never tried because she did not deserve it, and she did not deserve Leah and my in-laws' love and care. Well, this made her mad, and she was very harshly telling me that I was never her family anyways. She said that I've never been and never will be anyone to her, and that my sister and everyone else simply made a mistake. After that, she got up and left. So then I told my in-laws and Leah that I was done with her and she was not my family. Leah agreed and told her parents that she wasn't her sister anymore. So that's about everything that happened. I made a mistake by trusting her, and it's not looking like I'm going to get my money back. But at least I got rid of her, I guess. This isn't fair, but that's how life works, so I guess I'll just have to move on. Update 3. This is the final update of the story. Hey guys, I know you were not expecting me, well, neither was I. But I had a final development in my sister-in-law saga, and I promised you guys are going to love this one. It's been a few months since my last updates, and this is what happened a few days ago at Christmas. So, a little bit of context. For several months now, me and my wife had been working towards buying her parents a new home. We knew that their lifelong dream was to own a house in a tropical place, but they had not been able to afford it, so over a year ago we decided to do it for them, and 2 months before Christmas we bought them the house. We wanted to keep it a surprise, but we had to tell them early, and they were still pretty shocked and loved it. I guess word got around that, we were giving expensive gifts, and during this Christmas, Natalie showed up expecting to get something from us. Can you even believe the audacity? We were fine with her coming to the family function, as a lot of people were coming too, but we had no idea what was about to happen. So she showed up and started trying to talk to us like nothing had happened, and I just ignored her, and Leah refused to acknowledge her. She got pretty irritated, but did not give up. Then, during dinner, she asked if we had gotten her a gift. At that point, I just told her that she was not part of my family. The funny thing was that she looked at Leah expecting her to say something different, but she just flat up agreed with me. Natalie then starts telling her parents about how I had induced Leah to hate her, and the parents told her that if I had not agreed, she would not be here. Well, this pretty much got her heated, but she held it in well because it turns out that she was waiting for something. She had assumed that as her parents were moving out and, well, we were pretty well off, she was going to get their house next. To be fully honest, me and Leah did not remember this at the time, but when we gave them the new house, her parents had told us about what they wanted to do. It was funny because Natalie herself, well, brought up the topic of what was going to happen to the house. Then she was shocked to her core when my in-laws told her that they were giving this house to me and my wife. She looked like she had seen a ghost, and just to rub salt in her wounds, I asked her if she heard what they said. She gets very jealous and immediately just straight up starts arguing that the house should go to her. But the parents said that after what she did last time, and since we had gifted them the new house, they wanted us to have it to do whatever we wanted with it. I don't know what came over her after that, but she gets very upset and very, very mad. I don't know. I guess seeing me smile made it worse, so when the argument reached its peak height, she just took a bowl and hit me in the head with it. I fell to the ground and she jumped to injure me more. Fortunately, Leah dragged her away and slapped her, and I asked a cousin to call the cops. I was bleeding, so we went to the hospital and she got arrested. So that was an interesting night, right? Nobody from the family even bailed her, as everyone was super mad at her and her friends had to help her. My in-laws cut her off for good after that and told me that I would never, ever have to see her again. My wife is done with her too, and I just hope this is it for her. I've not seen her since her silence then, and I hope I don't ever see her again. Anyways, thank you guys for staying with me. Cheers and Happy New Year. I know this is long, but I really appreciate anybody who takes the time to read this. I don't even know where to begin. Let me give you a bit of background. I'm 31 female and my brother, we were raised by extremely religious parents. They are Christians and raised us to have the same values as them. They wanted me to be married and stay at home to have children, but I wanted a career and to get an education instead. We live in the United Kingdom and I work hard in high school and got a scholarship for law school, while getting a loan to cover the extra expenses. I left my parents' house at 18 and cut them off. I married Caleb, 31 male, when we met at university and started off as friends. But he asked me out not long after, and we've been in a romantic relationship till I graduated with my LLB degree and completed the LPC course. During my early days practicing law, under a supervised training contract, I got engaged to him. Over time, my client base just grew substantially, and safe to say I'm one of the top 15 solicitors in the city. My big brother works as an in-house investigator and helps me with property investigations. Instead of collaborating with agencies, I preferred him to accompany me. Besides, he only used to have irregular stunt gigs, which weren't sufficient for him, so I helped him with a full-time job. Neither of our families knew about my relationship with Caleb at first, since we did not want anyone to get the wrong idea if it did not work out. After a few months, we agreed. It was time, and I met his older sister, Haley, who was then married to her husband, Sam. She quit her job when she gave birth in order to take care of their children until he was old enough for preschool like they planned it. Haley was very close with Caleb, but she also used to be close to me and continued all the way when me and Caleb got married. When it comes to my mother-in-law and father-in-law, I did not like them from the start as they possess an air of self-importance. They're one of those people who start showing a doctor they know their knees or shoulders or the weird mole on their back at the parties. They'd pay a stranger, but expect freebies from their own. This is how I describe my in-laws. Now here's where it all starts. As I'm friends of Haley, I helped her often with her kids, so I noticed a change in her behavior. She was talking less than usual and seemed overall much less happy. Worried for her, I called her one day and asked if anything was wrong, and she told me that Sam wanted more kids and was putting pressure on her until he eventually decided to get separated. The two of them had been together since they were 21, married since they were 28 and were coming up on their 7th year anniversary. Me and Caleb went to her house and just to see how she was, and she let us inside looking frightened. I had been planning on staying quiet and letting them have their moment before leaving with them, but then she asked what I thought about the situation, basically asking if I thought she deserved this, if Sam was in the wrong, etc. I told her that nobody deserves a situation like this. I naturally wanted to help her since she was like a close friend to me. I said that I could talk to Sam, but she refused because she forbid her from going outside or talking to her family about this, as he thought that we were a bad influence. He told her that if she disrespected him, he would divorce her altogether and make sure that she never believed in happiness again. I reassured her that he could not do that and offered her help to file a divorce if she wanted one. I wanted her to have a proper solicitor who was competent, proficient, and qualified, much like myself, though my field is real estate law and finance, and I'm well familiar with family law as well, having taken a course in it at school. So I asked her to go down to the CMS's office tomorrow and fill out a form for child support. Even if he chooses to not be in her and their child's life, he's financially responsible to support it. She just needed to give information about her, her child, and Sam, and any relative details to assess child support eligibility and the financial responsibilities of her and Sam. Long story short, throughout the divorce proceedings, alimony, and securing better child support, she had no intention of compensating me for the extensive support I provided her. I told her that since she's family, I was willing to give her a discount of 40%, but she straight away said no. That's not necessary since she took my case as pro bono. Well, that's not true, but I did not argue with her for the sake of our friendship. Just after 8 months, she married another man, Maxwell, who agreed to be the father of her child from her first marriage. Their relationship quickly went downhill, and I personally think that they should never have gotten married, but oh well. A few months ago, I was with Caleb at the grocery store. Haley approached me and asked me to represent her for her second divorce because Maxwell had been very abusive to her, often hurting her by bringing up her first marriage whenever they had a disagreement. She made it all very believable. I went through my regular speech of trying to reconcile and go through counseling, etc., but she said that she needed this divorce. I showed her my rates, and she seemed to be hit with the 1 hour consolation is $100. She just responded saying, "Hey, I can't really afford this kind of solicitor fees. Was kind of hoping you could just help me as a friend. Sorry to bother you." I obviously refused point blank to help further other than give a discount, as I felt this to be exploitative. I understood that she seemed to be in a tough spot, but I could not bring myself to provide assistance without fair compensation, especially when I have to cover my student loan, including the fee from the LPC course, which is expensive and not included in the tuition. So it was time for freebies to stop. I responded with something professional and tactful, declining to give it unpaid advice. I'm no good at wording stuff like that, but something that politely said, "No, I don't work for free." Haley automatically had insult issues with me, saying that she finds this very stingy and the fact that I not want to help her said enough about where our friendship was headed. I patiently explained to her, no need to be dramatic. Put yourself in another career like a bricklayer or a gardener. Now imagine somebody asking you to come build a wall or put together a rose garden because they don't want to spend the money to pay somebody to do it. You quickly see how ludicrous self-entitled the request is, especially given the fact that the apartment you looked at was out of your price range. Likewise, you need to pay if you want a solicitor. And we're looking at a minimum of 10 hours. Are you happy to proceed at that basis? If yes, then sign the agreement form and I can start on today's date. Well, she laughed and got a little rude to me. We'd been friends for that many years at this point, and it all went out the window because of this. I was pretty mad, and in a moment of pettiness I said, "I'm not surprised your marriage did not last. What nerve do you have to say something like that? I can't believe you have the audacity to demand my services when you did not compensate me for the help I provided during your first divorce. Her jabs and insults evolved after that, saying that my marriage also would not last. Well, that I wasn't good enough for Caleb, and that she was surprised that we were still together. She went livid, screaming at me and Caleb to leave, which we did. Caleb was annoyed at me after this, saying that while we had our differences, that was not the time for it. I apologized to him when we got home because I genuinely had not meant to say it when I did. But I refused to apologize to Haley because what I said was true. Haley then turned everyone in the family against me. My in-laws started messaging me, asking me to apologize because I was, quote, heartless for saying that when Haley was grieving, and that I should be the big person and just own up. It became an unspoken expectation from the family that I should not ask for money from somebody who just recently started a job, because Haley has a lot of existing commitments to manage. It's as if I owed them professional services and my expertise, even though she most certainly had the means to pay. But I don't owe anyone anything and have no obligation to spend my time helping her. I can see a moral obligation if somebody's life were at risk, like a doctor or a nurse helping an unconscious person in a store, but nobody dies if a divorce doesn't happen. This expectation's pretty universal across my occupations, and I get asked this all the time. So, during a family dinner that was arranged by Caleb during the weekend, I told everybody a white lie that her issue was beyond my scope of knowledge, and also recommended a local company. Even though I could handle this case, I said, I work in a very specific specialized area of law, and I'm very good at it, but if you're asking me something outside of the area, my opinion's gonna be barely worth more than some Joe Schmo on the street. I'm not just going to be informed about everything. I don't just know a lot of this stuff off the top of my head because it all depends on the most recent, relevant, applicable precedent. My in-laws accused me of being ungrateful and the very ones who helped me through law school by slapping them with my legal fee. In reality, Caleb and my mother-in-law only got an extended family member to give me some general guidance, which wasn't particularly helpful. Nobody helped me in becoming a solicitor. My father-in-law was like, family helps family, which I agree with, but I believe that help must be reciprocal, and right now Haley's not reciprocating that help. He mentioned that he knows a mechanic who would not hesitate to help without charge if it was for a friend or even a minor acquaintance, and that he does this all the time. Of course, to each their own, people are different. When it comes to me, I and a lot of my friends do particular things we still charge each other for. We might offer a discount, but when it comes down to it, we're still putting in time and effort to do it. On top of it, we consider it to be supporting each other's work. None of us expect to do anything for free unless somebody offers. In my personal experience, I 100% tell my friends to make appointments with me during work for things, and they do. We talk, everyone's happy. He then asked that I could at least give my sister-in-law an initial consultation where she tells me what the issue is. And I tell her if, it might be actionable, and then talk about where the case is and how much it would cost to continue assisting her. He said that since she has some important questions regarding the legal aspects of the divorce that she needs me to answer, as she does not want to spend extra money on legal fees. It bothered me, and I did not know if the expectation would continue even after I gave her a consultation, so I did not want to commit in the first place. Solicitors, every minute is billable. It'll cost money for me to research if she has a case. Explaining it will be a complex and may require more in-depth answers. 3 to 4 questions, then become more with follow-up. If I give it away this time, she'll come back again with one more question, over and over, and then her cousin does, then her neighbor does, and when my other friends have questions on law matters, they'll expect free advice too. It's a slippery slope. So I conveyed to my father-in-law, I'm appalled because this is beyond disrespectful. If she wants free legal assistance, she could get in touch with the local Citizens Advice Bureau for guidance. There's other options for her too. Like websites, with $5 trial periods of pay-per-question that are super affordable and accessible. If they're easy questions, those resources can help her. I can also give the contact info for another solicitor who does free consultations. But if she wants my help, then I can give her a quote. I charge a modest friends and family fee, and if she doesn't want to pay for it, then she can go elsewhere and just get charged 3 times the price. It's entitled of her to expect me to do it without a fee. Well, still, they both kept these obnoxiously just forcing me to take this up. What they don't realize is when that happens, she becomes a prospective client and all kinds of rules apply. Because literally anytime I provide free advice, I enter a solicitor-client relationship that subjects me to risk, accountability, professional ethics, and malpractice claims. Even if I'm willing to donate my time and skill, there's multiple ways this could go wrong and hurt my career. Sounds unlikely, sure. But not so much if I dish out advice to every friend who harasses me for free service. I wanted to put my foot down, but I already knew my family would think I was an a-hole for doing so. So to be diplomatic, I offered to answer a couple of quick general questions, but if there's a lot of grounds that need to be covered, I'd need to charge for specific advice. I was now labeled as selfish, totally overlooking the silent sacrifices I've made for everyone's benefit. It's ridiculous of anybody to take money off the table by asking to do it for free. One question in between might be one thing. A full consultation is outrageous. Free advice does not pay the student loan. The home seller isn't giving away the house for free, so there's no reason for me to give away my legal advice for free. I spent a crap ton of money to learn this stuff and worked hard on that degree and simply just don't want to get anything for the fruits of my labor. I earn a living, a very lucrative living, by selling my time and expertise in the field. I have no idea how my in-laws could think that it would not be appropriate to refuse to waste hours that I could otherwise be charging to represent somebody who really deserves my help. That night, Caleb asked me for help, and I knew what it was, so I said no, refusing to represent Haley without payment. He gets furious with me and told me that I should have just said yes, what can I help you with? He ended up demanding that I reconsider and provide my services pro bono because she was struggling financially. I've talked over and over to him, but he was just stuck in his ways. I then told him that I did not think that he should force me to help Haley with that, so he had been ignoring me all night. Well, I tried to have a conversation, but he said that there was nothing that I could say to change his mind. This made me furious, because this fight between my husband and me was triggered by Haley. I started wondering if she's been lying all along about Sam and Maxwell. I checked with several friends of mine, and they all seem very positive about their integrity. I then met with Sam, who confided in me about his suspicions regarding Haley's fidelity, which led to him to leave the house. He doubted that she might have been cheating on him when they were together, but he doesn't have any concrete evidence. Also, he never did anything that Haley told me. It was all a lie. He never forbid her from anything, nor did he make any threats. I assured Sam of my support, providing the reason that she brought this upon herself by instigating my family to push me into doing unpaid labor. The next day, I made a plan and agreed to help Haley. I noted a friends and family discount in a separate line at the bottom of the bill, making it a $0 invoice, and sent it to her just to make the point so she knows how much she wants me to do for her. I then started the divorce procedure while outwardly supporting Haley, and I did orchestrate a move. I asked my brother to initiate an investigation into her, gather information, and brainstorm ways to find anything that might confirm or dismiss these suspicions. He soon finds out about Bernard, a guy with whom Haley has been having an extramarital affair. They've been together since Haley and Sam got engaged and continue to be together till now. I arranged a meeting with him, and during our conversation, he revealed that Haley had portrayed their relationship as part of a open marriage. She first met him at a party that she said he was cute, and asked him to take her home. On the way, she told him that she had a husband, and just opened up their relationship. Well, Sam took her word for it, and it was for several years under the assumption that the relationship between them was just very casual. She spoke to him about Sam every now and then, but it wasn't that serious. Always more negative than positive. When she divorced him, she told Bernard that she did not want to marry anyone again, while she secretly married Maxwell. The concept of an open marriage is all about the awareness and consent of all parties involved. Haley lied. When I told him this, he did not like that Haley had been doing this behind her partner's back and was disappointed in himself for being so careless and foolish. Knowing this, I rigorously prepared Bernard for his appearance at the witness stand. He was more than willing to settle the score with her and make her pay for lying deceitfully. At the courtroom, I called Bernard into the box, pretending to be on Haley's side, but then I ended up blowing it on her face. She was shocked seeing him there and looked really nervous and panicked. Bernard admitted having been in a relationship with Haley and expressed all about how she lied about being in an open marriage and hid her second marriage from him. Well, she now stood up and said that it's not relevant to this case and began to fish for custody. Full custody. 51% child support, no visitation, parental rights, etc. Maxwell did not legally adopt your child, idiot. No need to demand these things, especially when it's your full responsibility to take care of your child. Anyways, she acted abusive during the divorce proceedings. The judge was lenient with Maxwell as he had no prior record of abuse. The court gave a verdict in Maxwell's favor and Haley ended up paying instead of receiving. When we were leaving, Maxwell thanked me while Haley called me a tight-fisted a-hole. After a long and tiring day, I reached home. Caleb tells me that he's not happy with what I did. I understand how it can be hard for him to see his sister fail, but I've decided to stand my ground on this one. I told him he's supposed to side with me over Haley, but he says he's not picking sides and it's purely just advocating for fairness and standing up for his sister. I gave him an ultimatum. Accept what I did or consider separation. When I said that, he was furious. Well, that's an understatement. I really have to ask this advice because honestly, I don't know if I'm overreacting. I'm wondering if I should just apologize to everybody to be done with all this. I was wondering if anybody could relate to Haley or me. Update number 1. Just really wanted to thank everybody who took the time to write honest advice. I truly appreciate it and I read every single comment. I don't know what's wrong with this woman. Haley came to me again shamelessly for help with charges on her, saying that she forgave me for what I did to her and now she really needs my help. Apparently, Maxwell filed a case against her for the distress caused. Yeah, deception, misrepresentation, or fraud could be grounds for legal action if it led to damages, financial loss, or even emotional distress. Even after boundaries, early, she's making my whole life an unpaid eternity of, quote, just a couple of quick questions. What a tightwad. I'm not doing this again. It's like having an artist friend and expecting art for free. Nah, respect my professional. I advised her of how the process typically works and had recommended some solicitors who could handle her case, but she wanted me to represent her. She was not having this. I told her that I can't just accept it if she won't pay for the years of schooling I spent studying and researching to acquire information and knowledge, and the practice it took me to help her learn the answer. And if I answer her questions, then I'll have to answer everyone's. She told me that she doesn't have a single penny even for food, as she was recently fired from her job. Their house was inherited by Maxwell before he married and Haley, so she has no claim to it and had to move out. She's living in a shelter rooming house as the rent is so expensive here in Winchester. I offered to give her a token amount of $300 and also told her that I gave $500 to charity that helps stray dogs, just to rub it in. She refused the money and promised that she intends to repay me when she becomes employed. But I explained to her that marital fraud can be quite complicated actually. Every legal question is dependent on multiple circumstances, and very often the answer changes depending on what those circumstances are. I just needed to be 100% in the advice I'm giving her, or she may end up screwed. And I just may be screwed too if she decided to sue me over it. So I told her, it's all complicated by issues around the professional malpractice, insurance, and liability. If I give you the cuff unresearched advice due to undisclosed info, you'll follow my advice. And then later something bad might happen and there's a problem and you lose money because of it, you're going to come back to me complaining. You'll blame me for the bad legal advice and it cost you money. She immediately added that she would never do that. She assured me like 100 times, but I told her it may still cause issues. What if you think I'm now your solicitor when I don't view you as a client? Stuff like that gets so many solicitors in trouble, it makes me liable for anything that results from you following my advice, even if it was given for free. This is why we see a lot of disclaimers from solicitors on forums, because the liabilities incurred can be monetary to potentially risking our license to practice law, essentially our livelihood. I spent 6 years to become a solicitor and risked, well, it all, by potentially giving advice that could get me disbarred. No thank you. She got angry and left. While going through a conflict check, it was clear that I could not represent Maxwell because his interests conflicted with the interest of my entitled former client Haley. This is why solicitors often decline to help friends and family. They do it for the same reason therapists often decline providing clinical advice to loved ones. It's risky, ethically dubious, and can go really badly. The next day, Haley reached out to the firm that I joined a couple months back. She explained her financial situation and convinced them why her case was deserving of their pro bono assistance. My firm is somehow interested in her because she specifically requested me to represent her. My boss doesn't see why I should not take this up. Typically, firms cannot force a specific lawyer to take on pro bono cases, but my workplace fosters a culture that highly values pro bono work, and it could indirectly impact my performance evaluations. The senior partners are very much involved in pro bono work, so there's subtle indirect pressure on some other solicitors to follow. So I decided to help her, and she promised to compensate me in the form of a client gift once the case was won. Update number 2. Hey, this is a quick update, just to clarify and point out a few things. I don't feel like it's morally wrong to say no to requests. Even if they aren't requests. I offered to help Haley because I didn't want to give my firm a bad impression of myself just 2 months after joining. Plus, she begged me a lot, and I don't want to continue the no contact that Caleb established with me. I'm not going to go into details because I suspect she lurks here. Also, the last 2 days have been full of love bombing from Caleb, flowers, food, permission to, quote, take the car and do whatever I want, favorite foods and drinks. Well, I won the case, but Haley did not pay me as she promised. The client gift that she gave me was a case closed, stress ball, and a thank you gesture. I, of course, had an argument with her about this. However, the communication failed. I want to take legal action. File a lawsuit or arbitration to recover the unpaid amount. However, I cannot because this is technically my firm's case, not mine. I also can't keep the possessions of her documents, files, and other properties related to the case. Update number 3. Caleb stopped getting text messages from Haley, so he made me join him to visit her, in case something happened. She now got a job as a special ed teacher, and I was furious as she did not make any effort to pay me. I asked her, "Oh, you teach math for disabled kids? Can my struggling friend's kid join your tuition classes without paying any fees? Can you help improve her teaching materials?" "Oh, but why not? It's a simple request." She was like, "I help people all the time, and I would feel bad for accepting payment from my friends when they need me." I told her, "Stop her acting. Aren't you going to be stingy and enforce that tuition fee by making parents pay to educate their disabled child?" "I've always helped because I tend to try to live by this standard, that if I have the ability to help somebody and choose not to, then I'm morally in the wrong, despite somebody's station and reputation, and that's just what you do for people you care about." Well, it's a nice motto to live by, but that kind of motto also runs the risk of being taken advantage of. I soon showed her that. We had discussions along the lines of, "Don't worry about paying. At some point, I'm sure I'll need your legal services and we can square up." She took part-time classes for the kid for around 5 to 6 months now. Eventually, she needed my consultation service, and while we did not discuss it, she was under the assumption that this would square us away. On top of working a full-time job over 40 hours, I worked a few more hours outside my office, even though I didn't want to use my limited personal time doing work. I papered the relationship, so there's a record of the questions I asked and the scope of legal advice given. This is both for my protection and hers. The job finished, and I dropped off an invoice of $2,500 via email and registered post. She called me and asked what the deal was. She wasn't nice about it. I argued that she just did a bunch of small favors here and there, and she could not think of, well, the same thing as doing a large single job. This made her so mad, and she said, I would have been happy to help the kid out with homework, probably occasionally a favor, but I'm not waiving off the fee for the full tutoring that I provided him. And now you know how it feels, fish. Your all-work-for-free mindset was idealistic but not realistic, as you've just now seen. Haley is clearly operating on a double standard. She's leeched off me multiple times, but now she's reminded to respect other people's time. If she wanted to go this route, I'd pay her invoice when she paid mine. I told her that both of us could give friend discounts to each other if she thinks it'll even help. She said she needed to think about it, so I'll keep y'all posted. Update number 4. Hey guys. Haley's decision led to threats of a lawsuit and general harassment by Haley and her best friend. I responded that I charged her nothing for both her divorcees, plus she did not pay me to represent her for the charges from Maxwell. What if she got me the work done for her, for free, then she owed me, and I was just collecting on the debt? She said, the difference is, it's different because it's just law stuff, which felt like I was being looked down on with what I do. So condescending. Her skill set has to be paid for, but my skill set has to be handed out for free. I didn't go to law school, get trained, and pass the bar to do that. The double standard is again very clear, and her diminishing the effort I put in on her behalf seals the deal. I told her that it's not fair at all, as she clearly did not see my abilities as worth the money in the first place. She shoots back. Educating is hard work, and that's a specialized skill. So is being a solicitor. An educator might be a great job, but solicitor work is no joke either. She's just being a stuck-up cheapskate, because she's better degree, in her mind, than me, and thinks her time is worth more. I told her that if the invoice is not paid, then it'll be sent to a debt collector agency for delinquency. In the end, from what I've been told, the solicitors she contacted have advised that she never provided an estimate or any type of written payment agreement with me. Pursuing this would likely lead to her opening herself up for being liable for my invoices as well. So she paid me the $2,500. I then began letting everyone in the family and community know how my sister-in-law loves to give her classes away for free. I made sure she was getting the entire saga of the struggles of their disabled child, sibling, neighbor, etc. from everybody who learned she was a special ed teacher. When she confronted me about it, I told her, well, if a solicitor should work for free, you don't need to put a price on teaching, just give it away, or is it only your work that's worth being paid for? Long story short, with embarrassment, she ended up paying me a major part of the amount, with some help from Caleb, for all the services provided by me till now. To settle the rest of the payment, she deducted the invoice amount that I owed her for tuition services, and she also helps me with dishwashing and vacuuming whenever I need it. I've just lost a friend of 10 years. I thought I knew him, but what he did to my sister-in-law was not cool. Recently, I've been put in a situation that nobody wants to be in, having to choose between family and a friend. I don't know whose side to take, because my sister-in-law says one thing while Josh, her ex-husband, says something else. He's acting out of character, not even caring that when he divorced her, he left her with not a penny to her name. It all started a couple weeks ago when my sister-in-law showed up at my mother-in-law's house, telling her she needed a place to stay. With her kids too? The retirement village my mom-in-law stays at's pretty strict about stuff like this, so she could only stay for a few days. When I talked to her, she confided in me that her husband kicked her out, and, well, the kids also, with nothing but the clothes on their back. I asked her why he would ever do that, since they seemed to be having a happy marriage. Her husband was my friend for over 10 years, and he actually met her through me and my husband. I've also respected him and held him in a high regard, so such behavior led me to be very upset with him. For him to do something like this is something just so big, something really big must have happened. And so my sister-in-law must not be telling me everything that I need to know. As soon as I found out what happened, I called Josh, who was upset, and he told me that he did not want to speak to anyone in my family and that he was done with her. I asked him about the kids, and he said that he would get full custody of them and leave her with nothing. Not only that, but she has not been working for the past 3 years and depends on him. She says that he has become very verbally abusive towards her, and she suspects that there's another woman in the picture. This really scares me as a woman because you can never know what's going on behind your back. One moment you're in a marriage with kids, and the next your husband kicking you out with nothing. The worst thing is, before she quit her job to be a full-time housewife, I told her that she needed to have a plan. Anything could happen, and he would not be able to work, or there could be an emergency. Instead, she used the money that she got to work and, bought herself a car, saying she might start Ubering other kids from school for extra cash. This was something she did, and she did not get to do it often, and I was not sure how much money she was bringing in. We were now stuck with the problem of what to do now that she did not have a job, any money, or a place to stay. So my husband and I talked, and we decided that we would allow her to stay with us. I don't know how long that we would allow her to stay, because we only have a small apartment for us 3 with our son as well, and we only have 2 bedrooms. We've been living in peace though, but the problem I seem to see is that she's having a hard time coming out of it. She got absolutely nothing from him when the divorce finalized, which is pretty funny because she did not have a job and they've been married for 7 years. I've seen Josh several times then, and each time he refuses to talk to me and tells me that I've chosen sides even though we've been friends for a decade. He told me that I had no idea his side of the story and I should be careful when I, let somebody like her stay in my house. To me, it felt like a warning, but I do not understand. My sister-in-law is a very good person and has been supportive of me and my husband for years, even before she got divorced. She was always available when we needed a last-minute babysitter, never charging us because we're family. From what I've experienced with her, she's a kind and honest human, but so is my friend. So it is really difficult because I don't know what's really happening and I've already lost a friend. It's been days now since she got a divorce, and I noticed that she's been drinking really heavily. I'm a bit scared that this will lead her to spiraling out of control. I can see that the new responsibilities that she has are weighing down on her, but I don't know how to support her, so she may one day go get a job. So I just need to know from you guys if you've ever had a family member or friend go through such a rough divorce, and how you've supported them so they can carry on with life. Also, do you think it would be a good idea for me to seek out Josh and ask him about what really happened and why he hates our family so much? I don't know, guys. It does not sit well with me that he had a sudden character change and was so heartless towards her all of a sudden. It scares me that you think you know someone when you are very far from the truth. Update number 1. It's been a month since the post. I want to thank everybody for the advice as well as your insight into the whole matter. So, my sister-in-law's finally stopped drinking and is trying very hard to pull her weight. The problem is that I'm having is with my neighbor. One neighbor in particular. Before my sister-in-law came along, we were already having a very hard time staying with her. She's a young woman who works long hours and has this very loud motorbike. She's also very hard to live with due to the noise that's always coming out of the room at all hours of the day. More than once, I've lost some clothes on the washing line or felt as if my money was missing. As we were the only 2 on the floor, I suspected it was her sketchy friends, and I confronted her. Even since then, she's barely greeted me and made it a point to complain about my child, blaming him for stuff that he's not done. Earlier this year, she blamed my son for clogged up toilets. Our bathrooms share the same pipes, apparently. Well, that caused a problem that we had for days, and she said that she found something that looked like a toy car in there, which is an utter load of nonsense because my son hates toy cars. In fact, well, other than her, I get along with some of my neighbors. I got home today to find my sister-in-law crying. When I asked her what's going on, guess who the culprit was? My neighbor and one of the other girls downstairs. Ava just asked both of them if they knew any places hiring because she is simply looking for a job. Both of them said that they would look for a place for her, but hours later when she was downstairs, she heard them gossiping about her, calling her an alcoholic who was left by her husband and had no place to go, and nobody would ever hire her. Some people are just inconsiderate, and I went and confronted the two of them, who told me an utter load of nonsense that they were not mean to her. They just said that the industry they work in might not be the best for somebody her age. I feel they have no right to shame her for going through some stuff in life. She's been putting in applications for jobs that she's overqualified for, but she's having a hard time. I told the two of them that I hope none of them would ever go through something like this. Update number 2. Well, things escalated fast after that because now my landlord wants to discuss increasing my rent because, apparently, we've been using much more power and water ever since my sister and her kids started staying here. There are families with more than 5 people staying here, and they pay the same rent as us. I know for a fact that Rochelle, my neighbor, was the one who dared to go and complain. You see, my sister-in-law told me that she also saw a scratch on her car that looked like, well, it came out of Rochelle's bike. My husband went to talk to her to request that we should all make peace, but no. Miss Rochelle here told us there would only be peace if we moved out. I don't know why she has such a problem with my family, especially since my sister started staying here. Also, something really weird happened today at home. So, I always leave some money for my son to buy some lunch for school, right? I put the money on the living room table, as always, but he says he did not see it. No one in my family would take that money, but now I've started to think of months ago when stuff would go missing at home. The worst part is that no one in my family admitted to doing it, and I know this place is not safe. Not with Rochelle's sketchy friends who are here all the time. I'm sure it was one of them who entered my house and took the money. The past few days have been really icy between us. She appears to have a huge grudge against me and my sister, and I know for certain that she was the one who put the complaint in. We already pay more rent than necessary for this small, stupid apartment, but now we have to pay more because of her. Update number 3. So, the rent thing got sorted out, but I think something happened to my sister. She refuses for us to go report him to the police, but there's no denying the marks on her neck. So it's been a while since I decided that I needed to talk to Josh about what happened, so that I may be able to help her if she was treated badly, and I told her that I was going to talk to Josh, and my husband agreed that it would be a good idea. Already the kids go to his house once or twice a week, but we need her and Josh to be at least on amicable terms for the sake of the children. So anyways, she beats me to it. Today after work, she told me that she went to his house. She has not gotten paid yet, so she needs some money to buy medicine for one of her sons. She doesn't want to take money from my husband and me, and says that we have been so good to her. She says that she went to, his workplace and asked for money for their son, but he thought that she was lying, and they ended up getting into an argument. Sure enough, she does have marks on her neck that indicate strangling, but she does not want to press charges. I wanted to go and talk to him like a person that I respect, but now I've lost totally all respect for him. It's gone. His life gets to go on like normal while she suffers, and now he has the nerve to lay his hands on her. She did not say if it was true for the first time, but some things are starting to come together in my mind. He was probably acting like this all along, and had been hurting her, but we simply did not know. I'm sickened by his behavior, and I strongly feel that he should be punished for doing and everything that he has to put her through. She told me to let it go, but I will not stand by and let this happen. When my husband found out about this, he was absolutely fuming. He just took the car and left, but I hope he did not go and do something that he'll regret. I know he's such an impulsive person. Guys, I really don't know what to do. The proof is right in front of me, but she does not want to go after him. She was silent about him abusing her, divorced her and left her, so she should have tried to fight. Please, can I have some ideas of how I can convince her to go after him legally? Update number 4. Okay, so everything's been a bit of a doom and gloom in the moment, with my sister-in-law and her husband as well as the living conditions at home. There has also been some arguments between me and my husband, and I was fine with her staying with us till she got back on her feet, but there's no denying that we're cramped in this apartment. I'm super drained and sometimes very frustrated that she does not want to pull her weight now that she's earning. She started dumping us with the kids and going out with friends, spending the little money that she had, and I warned her that her behavior was making it very hard for us to live in peace. Plus, she had to focus on rebuilding her life at the moment. Anyways, her brother does not want to hear anything bad about her and says that I should cut her some slack. So today, she ends up moving out. The vibes was a bit weird at home, and I don't know how to say it. I feel like sometimes she gives me an icy shoulder. She's always interrupting my alone time with my husband because she just wants to spend time with her brother, and I've been patient, but I'm kind of over it. So, when she told us she found a place to stay and was moving out, I was so damn relieved. It was a good place in a safe neighborhood and closer to both her workplace and the kids' school. We have had much more of a space at home now, and it's nice to see that the tension between us is less. Oh, and with regards to her husband, she says he apologized and wants to be more involved in the kids' lives. I don't know whether he has apologized yet, but yesterday when I saw him, he was not nice at all to me. I had to hold myself from telling him right then and there what a piece of crap he was. Update number 5. As I'm writing this, we have just come from her house. Somebody tried to break in, and from the signs, it was their crazy ex-husband. Now, I feel so bad for trying to get her to move out too soon. I would not hold it anymore after that. I called him and told him just what I think of him and how we will be pressing charges. I told him that she has not done anything to hurt him. This is the kind of caring Josh that I know. Well, I told him he needed serious help before he did something that he would regret. And can you believe the nerve of that man to make it seem like he was never at her place? He even denied strangling her, and when she came to ask for money, he claimed that he has been giving a monthly allowance for the kids and even herself, even though she does not deserve it according to him. I asked him what it was that she did to him, and he told me that I knew exactly what she did to him and that I was helping her to play her games. He told me that she was using me to further her own agenda, and I was hella confused. As what exactly was I supposed to know? Why did he not just come right out and tell me what she did? I could not help in this situation if I had no idea of what was happening. Trying to ask her was like talking to a brick wall because she knew nothing, and right now she's sleeping after crying for hours. She was still shaking when Dave checked up on her a couple of minutes ago, and I can't sleep, not when I know that he dared to invade her personal space like that and threaten her. I sure as hell hope that she was not the one who told him where she lived, because as soon as she starts letting him into her life even more, then she'll go back to him. It'll be a vicious cycle. My mother could tell her for free that if an abuser is not done with you, they will never let you leave. My mom paid with her life when my dad kept on abusing her, so seeing this happen to Ava breaks my heart. I could not save my mom, but I will help out Ava. Update number 6. My eyes have been opened to the truth, and it's ugly. Gruesome, even. I'm left here questioning my judgment. Would you believe me if I told you that my husband and I were about to go our separate ways after she moved in back with us? We did not see that she was the puppet master, pulling the strings. She's been pulling the strings all the time, but we're such fools, trusting the so-called victim. So, when she came back with a vengeance. She stopped going to work, blaming PTSD, and she did not want to pull her weight around the house. It was financially straining for us all, and when I tried to tell her that she needed to get her act together, she would run to her brother and twist my words until it looked like I was being verbally abusive. She did things that she knew would annoy me so that I would lose my temper and tell my husband to kick her out. In terms, she would make comments about how I was not good enough for her brother, because I did not support her. So you must be wondering why I did not throw her out like the trash that she is. And that's because of her compulsive lying. She showed us texts that we were supposedly from Josh, where he would threaten her. She was an actress, a master manipulator, who made sure that we only saw what we needed to. Not only that, But I started to find that some of my clothings were missing as well as my jewelry, so I told my husband about it, telling him that I thought she was taking my stuff, and you know what she had to say? That Rochelle was the one taking my stuff, so I should confront her. Well, I did no such thing, because Rochelle and I are sworn enemies to this day. We don't even greet each other after a messy stunt she pulled. In fact, I was not speaking with any of my neighbors. I'm paranoid, not knowing who to trust and who not to. And then yesterday, crap hit the fan. She planned to embarrass me in front of my husband and make me seem like a liar so that he would divorce me and kick me out of the house. I told you how my neighbor Rochelle had a motorbike, right? Well, her keys went missing. She had no idea where they were for the whole day, and what was even worse was that in the boot was some valuable stuff that appeared to be missing. That morning, my sister-in-law asked to carry my bag for me. Not knowing anything, she put the keys in there. When I get to work, I find the keys hidden in a very small compartment, and I did not know how she thought I was never going to find those keys. When I got home, Rochelle was waiting, and she told me to empty my bag. I already knew that the keys were planted in there, so I just planted them on Ava instead. Rochelle found nothing on me, and she left, but I saw that Ava was mad that she did not find the keys on me. From the way Rochelle spoke, she appeared to think that I was a thief. So, she spoke about how she tried to be civil with me and did not want to start just blaming me, but everyone knew that we did not get along and I was still sour over exactly what happened. When she could not find those keys on me, I saw that she was more than mad, but that served her right, after what she had accused me of. As for Ava, I hoped that she would notice that the keys were back with her, and she would do the right thing. I could have told her brother what she did, but if she lost her brother due to this stupid mistake, then I was afraid that she would run back to the abusive man. Luckily, my husband was not there to witness the drama. I had completely forgotten about what happened when hours later she was still not back from fetching the kids from extracurriculars. I had already started making dinner, and my husband had just gone home and was taking a shower. That was when my other neighbor knocked on my door, screaming words that I could not understand about outside in a fight. When I got outside, I saw that Rochelle and Ava was pinned up by the wall and she was screaming her face out, and Rochelle's feet was a bag and on top of it was an unmistakable shiny key. Ava screamed for me to help her out when she saw me, and she looked like a deer caught in headlights. That was when she let out a scream. Rochelle let her go and she fell onto the ground, and I saw the blood seeping out of her shirt and the look of shock on her face, so I went up to Rochelle and pushed her away from my sister-in-law, asking her why she would do that. It was clear that somehow she found out that Ava had stolen her bag and the keys. Rochelle later said in a statement to the police that she caught my sister-in-law trying to put the bag back in the boot of her bike. Apparently the bag had very important stuff that you're better off not knowing about. My husband saw everything, with Rochelle asking her if she was the one responsible for the theft around the apartment. My sister-in-law just laid there begging her and saying that I framed her. We managed to get her to the hospital where she cannot run away from the truth of what she's done. She tried to gain my husband's sympathy, but my husband had seen and heard enough. He was very upset that she was lying, and I could see that he was going to say or do something that he would regret, so I decided to talk to her. I had a whole lecture to tell her about the consequences of her actions and how she had ruined the peace at our house now that it was going to be impossible for her to stay. As soon as he left, her whole mood changed. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're the one who's supposed to be lying here, not me." I felt like the wind had just been knocked out of my lungs when she said that, and even now I'm still reeling from the hate that was coming from her mouth. Her eyes were full of hatred, and she went off on me. She asked if I really thought I was going to get away with being the perfect one in the family after what I did to her. So, then I asked what it was that I did to her that was so horrible she did not think that she could forgive me. What was so bad that she felt she wanted to ruin my life? She told me that I was the reason that she's gotten divorced from her husband. She told me that I did not cover for her when I should have months ago. You see, apparently her husband suspected her of cheating, so one day when she did not come home, he asked me, and I just told him the truth that she's been canceling plans with me for weeks, saying that, well, he was sick. To me, he replied that maybe she went to get some medicine and then we were done. I completely forgot about that conversation, so she says that I should have just lied and that she was with me and not asked any questions. Her husband caught on that day and kicked her out. So he decided to come stay with me and ruin my life because she had it in her head that it was my fault. My husband answered from behind me that she got herself into this mess, and even if I knew the truth, it would not have been right for me to lie to my friend and compromise our friendship. She tried to argue, but he told her that we knew she was responsible for the theft at home and for trying to get me into a bit of trouble. He could not forgive her for what she did to me, but that's not all. For I went to Josh and told him everything, 'cause I had a feeling that the abuse story was a lie for her to stay in my house and ruin my marriage. Josh told me he did not want the details of the divorce to come out because he was so embarrassed about what happened. I asked him for permission to share this story because he's decided to come forward as a victim of abuse, so yes, she's been emotionally abusing him. The furthest that she's ever gotten was physical with him, as scratching and biting when they argue. He's never touched her or stalked her. She's done all this to herself. The past 24 hours have been a nightmare, and I need some time to sort it all out and process it. We'll try to give an update shortly. Thank you. Update number 7. Sorry I took so long in bringing you an update, but yes, I know there's so many questions that need to be answered, right? Well, I wanted everything to be settled down instead of giving an update for every small little detail. First off, my husband and I decided to move. Rochelle was charged, but the charges did not stick, and she wanted to countersue Ava for theft, but the whole thing just turned into a big mess. We decided to find another place to stay, otherwise things would have been awkward. I was scared as well because of the side of her that I saw. Last I heard that she was not completely off the hook because the contents of her bag were being investigated. Josh finally got the courage to expose her to the world, and we've been very supportive of him. We all realized that she manipulated us to serve only her selfish needs, but for others out there to be safe, we need to be open. There's a lot of people out there in this world doing the same to people that they claim to care about and get away with it. It's worse when it's a wife who abuses a husband because instead of supporting the man, well, the man gets laughed at. Anyways, she's been stripped of custody of the kids until she proves herself not to be a danger to people. So she's now supposed to go to therapy, and while I do not have the details of that, Josh did confide in me that she has a compulsive lying disorder. Hopefully she gets help for that because she needs it. Throughout all this, my mother-in-law knew nothing. There was no way that we could have stressed an old woman who wanted to rest. She was very heartbroken to hear all of her daughters that have been messing up, but she says that she feared Ava would do something like this. A mother knows her child, but sometimes it's not very easy to admit that one's child might have a problem. As for us and her, there's no love lost. My husband and I want nothing to do with her. We've decided to get a restraining order against her. I don't feel safe. I get very jumpy at times, and I feel I cannot trust anybody at all. I have to tell myself sometimes that a person is just being nice to me and that they don't want to hurt me. What hurts me a lot is that children were exposed to this at such a young age, and I just hope it doesn't affect them too much in the long run. I know it was difficult for me to properly heal after what happened with my parents. For now, it seems there's nothing more than, what's going on. Things are not 100% known. Okay, but maybe they will be. Thank you guys for the advice and insight. Now it's just time for me to move on. No matter what you do, there will always be someone who has issues with you. You can be Taylor Swift and somebody will still complain that your melody's too sweet or your lyrics are too relatable. To the point is, haters are going to hate you no matter what. And they're not just going to hate you. No. They'll take advantage of you the first chance they get and act like it's your fault. And you know what? It'll all be your fault. It is mine right now. I'm Emma, 27, a marketing executive at one of the top companies in the city and a huge Swiftie. I was supposed to be married to my dreamy boyfriend Mark next week, but I'm not sure it's possible now. Why? The type of person I was referring to above, which in my case is none other than my sister-in-law Lily, and boy does she have it out for me. I know I probably shouldn't say something like this for my own sister-in-law, but she's truly the B-word incarnated as a human. From the moment I met Lily, I could tell that she didn't like me. It was obvious in the way that she looked at me like I was some sort of intruder in her life. She was Mark's younger sister, and I knew family was important to him, so I tried my best to get along with her. But no matter what I did, it was never enough for Lily. It started with these little things. Whenever we were at family gatherings, she would make snide comments about my job, like marketing is just a fancy word for lying to people. I mean, what? I know you don't have brains, but why announce it to people like this? Or she would bring up my past relationship, hinting that Mark was just another guy on my list who are friends when she thought I couldn't hear her. I tried to brush it off, thinking that she would warm up to me eventually, but Lily was determined to make my life difficult. She would go out of her way to create problems between Mark and me. Once, she told Mark that she'd seen me having lunch with an ex-boyfriend, suggesting that I might still have feelings for him. In reality, I had run into my ex by chance and had a brief, polite conversation, but Lily twisted the story to make it look like something it wasn't. It took a lot of reassurance to convince Mark that there was nothing to worry about, and even then, the seed of doubt had been planted. Lily also had a knack for making me look bad in front of Mark's parents. She would tell them about things I supposedly said or did, exaggerating or completely fabricating details. One day, she told Mark's mom that I did not like her cooking. It wasn't true at all. I absolutely loved her cooking, guys. Come on. And have always been grateful for the effort that she put into family dinner. But Lily's lies made Mark's mom worry of me, and it took a long time to rebuild that trust. Despite all this, Lily never missed a chance to get favors from me or take advantage of my kindness. She would ask to borrow clothes, money, or my vehicle, always promising me to return them or pay me back, but rarely following through. She invited herself to events I was planning, making herself the center of attention and overshadowing me. If I ever tried to set boundaries or say no, she would act hurt and make me feel guilty for not helping her out. I remember one time she asked me to help her with a project for her job. She worked in event planning and needed someone to design some marketing material. I agreed, thinking it might be a way to bond with her. I spent hours putting together brochures, flyers, and social media posts for her event. She thanked me, but when the event was over, she took all the credit. She didn't even mention my name, and when I confronted her about it, guys, she just shrugged and brushed me off as if it were no big deal. Now, I know you guys must be like that. Maybe she couldn't credit me, or maybe she needed the credit for herself, as it may be more important for her, but what about the times when I did things for her just purely out of the goodness of my heart? What did she have to do and act so entitled when I tried to do nice things for her? Why is it never enough? I once organized a surprise birthday party for her, inviting all her friends and planning everything, drawn to the last detail. I thought it would be a chance to show her that I care, but instead of being grateful, she complained about the venue, the food, and the guest list. It was like all my efforts have been dumped into the gutter in front of my eyes. Through all of this, Mark tried to stay neutral. He loved his sister and did not want to believe that she was capable of such pettiness. I did not want to come between them, so I often kept the feelings to myself, hoping that things would eventually get better. But Lily never changed. She continued to undermine me, create problems, and take advantage of my generosity. Despite it all, I was ready to let her be. I mean, everyone has people in their family or relatives that they don't like, and they just learn to ignore them and live with it. I thought I could, until 2 days ago. She has crossed all her lines, and I cannot let this go any longer. Let me explain it to you, please. It all started on the night of my bachelorette party. I was excited. My friends had been planning it for weeks, and I just knew it was going to be a blast. We booked a fancy, smancy club, drinks, dancing, all my favorite people. Well, almost all. See, Lily was there too, and I was afraid that she might create trouble. But I didn't think much of it, and after all, it was my night and nothing could ruin it. Or so I thought. We got to the club and everything was perfect. The music was pumping. And, well, the drinks were flowing. I was surrounded by my best friends. We danced and laughed the night away, and for a while it was everything I had hoped it would be. But then Lily started handing me drink after drink, and I should have seen the warning signs. She was being too nice, way nicer than usual, but it did not really question it. I mean, it was my bachelorette party. I wanted to have fun, and boy, did I have fun. As the night went on, I got drunk. Like really, really drunk. I'm a happy drunk and generous drunk, and Lily knew that, and she kept encouraging me to have another drink, and then another. And at some point, she and her friends, who I didn't know very well, started talking about this amazing boutique nearby. They were going on and on about how they had these gorgeous designer bags and jewelry. In my drunken state, it sounded like the best idea ever to go there. So off we went. I was giggling and stumbling, barely able to keep myself upright. Lily and her friend practically dragged me to this boutique. I remember the shop being all shiny and glamorous, and they started picking out all these expensive items. And me in my drunken generosity was more than happy to buy them. I mean, everything was so pretty, and I was happy, so why shouldn't I make people happy? That's the way my brain works when I'm drunk. I can't even remember how much we spent. The next thing I knew, I was walking up in bed with the worst hangover of my life. My head was pounding, my mouth felt like sandpaper, and I was still in my clothes from the night before. I groaned and rolled over, trying to piece together what happened. Well, nothing. The last thing I could remember was dancing with my friends, and I don't think much about it and went on my day as normal. It was all going well until my payment failed at the local coffee shop. At first I thought the server must have been down or something, some sort of technical issue, but then it failed 3 times in a row. I checked my bank statement, and I kid you not, I literally fell to the ground. Thankfully, I had some loose change on me at the moment, otherwise it would have been so embarrassing. I quickly paid and ran from there quick. I honestly spent a whole day thinking about whether I lost my card, someone hacked my account, or what could have gone wrong. Thousands of dollars are gone, and I could not remember a thing about what happened. Panic set in as I frantically called all my friends trying to piece together the night. Nobody knew anything, or so they said, and even Lily acted clueless, faking sympathy. I even called the bank, but they confirmed that all the transactions have been made using the authorized card that I have with me. As I was losing my mind, I walked past the bar I was at yesterday, and then a fancy boutique, and suddenly everything came flooding back. The glitzy store, the drunken shopping spree, Lily's encouragement to buy more and more, and I saw her smirk and heard her urging me to be generous. She used me. I stood in front of the boutique with my mind racing, with the realization hitting me like a ton of bricks. Lily knew exactly what she was doing, exploiting my drunken state to get what she wanted? Guys, how could she do this to me? Honestly, I wanted to go back to her and pull all of her hair off her head, but she's still Mark's sister. So here I am, writing on the internet, hoping to cool myself before confronting her. I don't think it's going to be easy considering how easily she lied to me on the phone, so please tell me what the best course of action should be. I looked forward to reading all your comments before confronting my selfish sister-in-law. So, guys, thank you and goodbye. Updates number 1. Hey guys, I knew Lily was selfish, but I could have never guessed her to be so evil. Yes, right after writing the post yesterday, I went to confront Lily, and it's even worse than I could have imagined. Before I tell you how it all went, let me tell you something that I was too embarrassed to tell you last time. The thing is, the account had all my savings from the past 3 years that I've been saving for my wedding. All of it is gone. I don't think I'll be able to have my wedding. So I guess you understood how important money was for me. So I went straight to her place to confront her, and when I arrived, she opened up the door looking surprised to see me. I wasted no time and went straight to the point, telling her that I remembered everything about the night at the boutique. I told her how she had taken advantage of me and how she had manipulated me into spending a fortune on things that she didn't really need and could not afford. I hoped that she would see how serious I was and feel some semblance of guilt or remorse. To my utter shock and dismay, when she realized I remembered everything, she did not look guilty or sorry at all. Instead, she looked almost amused. She admitted to everything without hesitation, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. When I asked her how she could take advantage of me like that, she didn't even flinch. Instead, she crossed her arms and gave me this smug look and said, "Emma, you bought those things willingly. No one forced you." I was speechless. The nerve of her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My anger, it turned to desperation, and I begged her to return the gifts. I explained how important that money was for my wedding and how postponing it would devastate me. I hoped that by appealing to her sense of decency, she would understand and help me out. But Lily just shrugged. She said I had bought the items willingly and that she had no obligation to return anything. She dismissed my pleas, refusing to even consider giving the items back. It was a coldness and lack of empathy that shocked me. I felt like my world was crashing down around me. How could she do this? My wedding was, just a few weeks away, and now I was in debt because of her. I had no choice but to postpone the wedding. Telling Mark was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. He was shocked, of course, and I could see the disappointment in his eyes. But he didn't blame me. He was upset with Lily too, but he was more concerned about me and how we were going to get through this. He even tried talking to her, but at first she just ignored him, and later she told him the same thing that she had said to me. She's truly beyond me. Postponing the wedding, it was devastating. I dreamt about this day for so long, and now it was slipping away because of Lily's spitefulness. I'm furious and heartbroken right now, but I know that begging Lily won't help. She's too selfish and vindictive to care. With only 4 days left to go, you can only imagine how embarrassing it is to cancel the wedding now. Thankfully, I kept the guest list small and personal. Hopefully that would make things less awkward for me. I'm devastated, I have a lot to take care of, and at the moment I just can't hardly focus because the person who's the reason behind all of this is living happily. I can't bear it. I want to make her pay, I just don't know how. Once again, I need your help. Please tell me how I can make Lily pay, because letting her get away with all this is the last thing that I want to do. Please, I beg for your advice. Updates number 2. The wedding day has officially passed now, guys, and well, I'm still just a fiancé, but a happy one. Why? Well, let's just say that my plan to make Lily pay has been set in motion, and it's going better than I could have ever imagined. It's been 4 days since I last updated, and here's everything that's gone down. Well, after the decision to postpone the wedding 4 days ago, I was heartbroken when a friend of mine, Sarah, she called up inquiring about Mark's bachelor party time. At first I was about to tell her that it's canceled, but then a brilliant idea hit my brain like a train. The thing is, I hadn't called people to tell them about the cancellation of the wedding, and all the arrangements of the bachelor were already paid in full, so it felt like such a shame to cancel the party when it could be such a good use. I confirmed the time and told her that I needed her help, but I'd elaborate with her about it in a bit. We hung up. It was difficult to persuade Mark to still go, but I was able to convince him by saying that it was already paid for, and that it would make me happy if he would go and relax a bit. So he finally agreed. Now back to Sarah. In case you're wondering why female friend was asking about my fiancé's bachelor, well, that's because she was the stripper hired for Mark's party. She and I had gone to college together and kept in touch over the years. I knew she worked as a stripper, and I'd recently heard that she was hired to entertain Mark's bachelor party. The irony of it all, it was almost just too perfect. Sarah was exactly who I needed for my plan. See, when I explained my situation to Sarah, she was surprisingly supportive of it. I'll tell you that. She was very, very supportive, if I'm being honest. She'd always been a good friend, and she knew how much I've been looking forward to my wedding. When I told her about Lily's betrayal and how I need her help, she agreed almost instantly. We spent hours planning, making sure that we would have no loose ends that could trace back to us. The plan was simple. Sarah would attend the bachelor party and focus all her attention on Jake, my sister-in-law's husband. The plan was that Sarah would flirt with him, get him drunk, and then take some compromising photos that made it look like they had slept together. So technically, whether my plan would work or not depended on how loyal Jake was to Lily. The night of the bachelor party, I was a nervous wreck. I couldn't be there, of course, but Sarah kept me updated with text. She told me when she arrived, when she spotted Jake, and when she started flirting with him. She said he was eating it up, clearly enjoying the attention. It wasn't long before she had him wrapped around her finger. Sarah sent me a few photos throughout the night, and my heart was pounding with each one. There was Jake looking cozy with Sarah, and his arm around her waist and her hand on his chest. It was all falling into place. She made sure to capture a few moments that could easily be misinterpreted. As the night wore on, Sarah took Jake to a more private location of the venue. She snapped a few more photos. It's, this time a little more suggestive. She made sure to get shots of them on a couch, looking like they were kissing, and another where she was sitting on his lap with her arms draped around his neck. It was enough to make anyone who saw them think that they slept together. When the party finally ended, Sarah sent me a final text. Mission accomplished. Soon enough, I received all those photographs. Sarah had really done a good job. Now it was my turn. The next morning, I compiled the photos Sarah had taken, and with the help of a new anonymous email address, I mailed them to all our friends and family, including Lily. I knew the news would spread like wildfire. The effect was immediate, and my phone started buzzing with messages and calls from friends and family, all shocked and outraged by the photos. I played my part perfectly, acting just as surprised and appalled as everyone else. I even called Mark, pretending to be heartbroken over what happened at his bachelor party. He was furious, not just at Jake, but at the whole situation. He couldn't believe what his sister's husband had done. Lily, of course, was beside herself. She called me, crying and hysterical, the audacity. She couldn't believe Jake would do something like this to her. Well, what can I say? He did. I fake sympathy all while thinking about how she doesn't even know this is just the beginning. I'll make her pay for what she did to me and make her lose everything. I just need some time, and I swear Lily will regret ever messing with me. I'll keep you guys updated, and, until then, see you later. Updates number 3. Hey guys, it's me, and I'm back for an update. This is probably going to be my final one. It's been about 5 months since I've last updated, and trust me, it's been a colorful month. Lily is in absolute ruins. She lost her husband and family, and her finances are in absolute ruin, and she's been shunned by everyone. I received a few comments on how this wasn't the way to go about it. The only thing I'm going to say is that she ruined something I've been preparing for the past 3 years, so I hardly care for fairness. Anyways, let me resume from where I left off. After I posted the pictures, the whole family was in chaos. There was gossip everywhere, people could not stop talking about the scandal, and the rumors spread like wildfire. Jake, feeling guilty and manipulated, was in a state of utter confusion. Based on their conversation he had with Mark, he didn't know what to believe and was embarrassed by the whole situation. Honestly, I felt a bit of pity for him until I remembered that I had done nothing but give him a chance to prove his loyalty. None of it would have happened if he hadn't been such a dog. But anyways, I guess that worked out in my favor. The scandal reached a boiling point when Jake confronted Lily. Their argument was loud and public, attracting the attention of everyone around. In a fit of rage, Lily decided to move out and stay with Mark's family. It became a little annoying for me every time I visited Mark, but I kept my true feelings hidden, knowing my plan was still in motion. Next, I had Sarah call up Jake's house, pretending to demand payment for sleeping with him. She quickly hung up after making the demand, leaving Jake baffled and paranoid. He was on edge, and this call just pushed him further into a state of confusion. Then I hired a man. I literally took money out of the emergency fund, so you can guess how important it was for me to make Lily pay, just to deliver a huge bouquet of intimate notes and flowers for Lily to Jake's house. The note was more than enough to make anyone believe that Lily had been cheating on Jake. Luckily for me, Jake added 2 + 2 together exactly how I wanted him to. He concluded that Lily was having an affair, and to put the blame on him, she hired a stripper to frame him. Fueled by anger, Jake stormed over to Mark's house to confront Lily. In front of everyone, he slapped her and declared that he was divorcing her on the spot. Everybody was shocked and stunned, and the scene was really something out of a very dramatic soap opera. Well, Lily stood there humiliated and in tears while Jake stormed off. The fallout from this fight was so immense and immediate, Jake wasted no time in suing Lily for defamation. That's when I did my last part. The case, which was very messy initially, was resolved quicker than anyone could have expected. Why? I asked Sarah to testify against Lily, which was more than enough. She confirmed the photos and the setup, painting a damning picture of Lily's involvement. Lily's life started to fall apart. She was ordered to pay hefty charges, which only added to her financial ruin. Socially, she was shunned. People who had once been her friends turned their backs on her, and she found herself isolated and alone. It was everything I had hoped for and more. Her parents were disappointed in her, and so was her brother. As for me, I've been working extra hard for the past 5 months, and luckily, I've managed to save enough to have a decent wedding. It won't be like the dream wedding I wanted earlier, but I know whatever I have with Mark with me, it'll be perfect. As for my grudge against my sister-in-law, I have none. She can keep the expensive dresses and jewelry because I know I made her pay more than they were worth. This is my story. Thank you for the support and kindness you've shown me throughout this. Goodbye. My youngest brother Lee is getting married soon. I was astonished at first, but not surprised, as both of us knew he would be the first one of us to do so. We were a small family of 4. Me, Lee, my parents, Jane, and Isaac. Soon we would have one more person in the mix. Lee was getting married to his high school sweetheart, and he first met Elizabeth in short, Liz, at a school dance when she was 17. Liz was then a volunteer at the dance, along with her best friend Annie, and Liz and Annie were inseparable and are still to this day. Lee had never been much of a dancer, what with 2 left feet and all. Those countless hours of dance practice sessions with me to learn the waltz were to no avail. As soon as Lee stepped onto the dance floor, his feet moved to their own rhythm. Soon, he went crashing into the person standing nearby holding drinks. That person just so happened to be Liz. Lee apologized to her and offered her a sweatshirt from his locker, and even offered her a cleaning service he would get done for her dress. Liz thanked him and went her way. Spilled drinks were common at this instance, like school dances or parties. It's not a big deal. The next week or so, Lee kept bumping into Liz in the hallway, right? They might have passed each other numerous times, but he never took notice of her until now. Liz is 2 years younger than Lee. It helped that soon he would be leaving high school and joining a college. This gave Liz an excuse to talk to Lee to start conversations, from choosing the right college or course to writing applications. A few months before Lee graduated, he and Liz had started dating. When me and my parents heard the news, I was a bit skeptical about the couple, as I did not see how it would work out. Lee would be miles away in college while Liz would be starting high school. I did not want Liz to distract my brother from pursuing higher education and his career. My parents, however, were accepting of their relationship. Lee and Liz had worked it out. They would meet each other on weekends, and when Liz would drive over to him, after all, he was just an hour away. And on weekends, Lee would come home to spend time with us and his girlfriend. A day after Liz's graduation party, my brother Lee went down on one knee and proposed to Liz. He saw no point in waiting years to have the wedding and thought it would be a nice surprise to Liz. Liz could not stop squealing with joy. I congratulated my brother on his engagement, and here's something you need to know about me and Liz. I have natural red hair. I used to be embarrassed about it at the beginning, often tried to hide it, as it was the only person in my class with red hair. Mind you, it was a deep red, almost as if some professional had actually colored it. Teachers would be fond of my hair and ask often where I got it done. Well, I would get more compliments in return when I mentioned that it was actually my natural hair. I, however, grew out of my insecurity and decided my hair was good enough being different from others, and I did indeed start to like it. Looks did not matter to me. Liz, however, was quite the opposite. She was superficial about looks, like they were the only thing that mattered to her at all in life. Ever since I first met her when she started dating Lee, she would show up, what I would call overdressed, with an attitude that would scream to put everyone else down. I thought it's normal as she's still a teenager, and like any other teenager nowadays, looks and people's perceptions of you on social media were things that mattered to her. Liz had the normal blonde hair that you would see around, and it was quite plain and often seemed dull. It was evident Liz did not like her hair. However, when Liz had colored her hair, it made me shift in my seat. One day, it might have been the 3rd time that Lee brought her over to our house. Liz walks up to me and compliments on how beautiful a color my hair is. As she runs a hand through it, I thank her and felt something odd about the encounter. I knew I was right to feel so, as the next time I met her. So, she showed up with hair that looked almost similar to mine. Liz proclaimed that she wanted to try out red hair, but she was not going for the color I had, and that her hair color had more originality. I had felt uncomfortable and had mentioned it to Lee, who disregarded my feelings on the situation and told me I was reading too much into things. Well, maybe I was, since Liz was just a teenager and a kid compared to me. I did not mind, and I let it go, as I did not have a monopoly over this particular shade of red. Ever since Lee had proposed, her wedding has been all anyone's ever talked about in our home. It had been ages since there were grand festivities such as a wedding to celebrate. I helped around whenever I could, managing my job alongside, and I sat Lee down one day and explained to him the responsibilities he would have after his wedding, as Liz was still a child. He agreed with me and told me he had already started looking for a full-time job at a company and was already doing internships. How else would he have been able to afford a ring for Liz? The stress of the wedding apparently was getting to Liz. She was turning into a full-blown bridezilla. I could narrate a few incidents where my future sister-in-law was totally off the rails. Her excuse being wedding stress, and let me start by telling you all about the day we went wedding dress shopping for Liz. Liz's bridal party, her mother, my mother, me, and Annie, her best friend, were in attendance. I noticed Liz's bridal party was far too large to fit the budget my brother had for the wedding. I put in a word to Liz about how this would hurt Lee's pockets, who was trying to find hard work at a stable method of income to support him and Liz. At the dress store, the bridal party tried out the dresses first, and unfortunately the girls got in a fix as they each had a different style they wanted their dress to be. Liz lost it in front of everyone and started screaming at all of us to pay attention to her and her only. She proceeded to decide the dress her bridal party would wear, and maybe it was just me who felt they seemed a bit dull and plain. Almost as if she did not want anyone to look good or better than her at her wedding. We proceeded to watch as Liz tried on wedding dresses until she started putting on expensive dresses. When I say expensive, I don't mean $100 or so above budget, but rather 1,000 or so. I was appalled and opened my mouth to ask her to choose another dress within our budget, when my mother stopped me from doing so. She said, whatever had been planned was pre-decided by Liz and Lee, and if Liz were to choose an expensive dress, it would be their matter to sort their budget out. We bought the dress and the dresses for the bridal party. However, at the end, Annie began to cry, saying she did not like her dress. So Liv let her pick out the one that she seemed rather unfair, well, to the whole rest of the bridal party, but they went along with it. Annie picked out her dress, which was a second to Liz. A day or two later, Liz announced to everyone attending the wedding to not wear white, as she wanted hers to be special and outshine everybody else on her wedding day. And if anybody was to wear white, they would not be allowed to come inside the wedding. Well, another incident that I recall is when her bridal party threw her a bachelorette party. Lee had put a word in to invite me along as he did not want me to feel left alone. I arrived at the party and noticed Liz drunk out of her mind. She wobbled up to me and told me that I was taking attention away from her. In her drunken stupor, she threw up on me and told me that I was only there because Lee had forced her and made her invite me. I went upstairs to clean up while Annie helped Liz lay down and sober up. I called myself a cab, texting Lee about what Liz had told me, and I was annoyed at Liz for saying that to me. Lee was calling to apologize, but I did not answer as I was not in the mood to deal with him or Liz. But when I got home, my mother, Jane, told me that Liz had called her and Lee and told them that I ran out the party, embarrassing Liz and ruining the party for everybody there. Well, I told them what actually happened, and my mother dropped the matter. I wondered why she could not stand up for me to Liz. After all, she was just a child. Liz got more petty by the day as the wedding date seemed to approach. She would have full-blown tantrums if things did not go her way. She would scream at people who did not listen to her. I also noticed some tension between her and Lee after the party, but that dissipated as everyone started preparing for the wedding. One day, I woke up to the sound of loud chatter coming from down the hallway. I throw on a jumper to go check out what all the noise was about, and there was a huge clutter of people, laughing with drinks in their hands, going about their business. I make my way to where Liz was sitting at the center, and I notice my mother sitting in the corner feeling uncomfortable. So, I walk up to her and ask her who all these people were, and she said that they were Liz's classmates. Apparently, Liz had asked my mother if she could invite a few of her friends and ex-classmates over to help her with the wedding planning. Liz's apartment was rather small to do so, and my mother agreed, but had not imagined that there would be so many people in attending. Liz and her friend got drunk on my mother's wine and left the place absolutely trashed. I helped my mother clean up and drove what was a long, silent road, to drop Liz off at her apartment. Everything was ready for the wedding. Makeup artist, music, the dress flowers. There was only 4 days left to the wedding. Liz would spend the night over at our house with Lee just to discuss any more wedding planning, and I got home from work tired and hungry and find my parents and Liz seated on the couch and discussing the big day. Well, Liz noticed me and asked me to sit down, as she had an important thing to ask of me. I walked over and sat down beside her. Liz asked me in the nicest tone possible that she could muster up, and she asked me to get my hair colored a different style, as she wanted her red hair to be unique, and my hair would take everyone's attention away from her. Well, she even told me that she would be paying for it and would cover all the cost of getting my hair done. I looked at her shocked and turned to my parents. Their silence told me they supported Liz, and I, however, retaliated and said that I did not want to color my hair just because my future sister-in-law wanted a unique hair color at her wedding. What's worse is that she told me to get a dull blonde color, as any dark hair color would be distracting. I was curt and denied her request, going to my room as I did not want to have an argument at all. I woke up to a call from Lee, who told me that Liz was upset at me having denied the one and only small request that she had of me. I told Lee what Liz asked me to do, and he accepted that she was indeed stepping over a boundary, as how anyone's hair looked at the wedding was none of her business, and she should not bother with such unimportant matters. A wedding meant a party, where the bride and groom would take their vows and party the new phase in their lives with close friends and family. But Liz was doing the absolute opposite of that. I had nearly heard a word from Lee, as Liz was dictating each and every plan at the wedding. Lee went along with it, as he did not want to stress the bride further and did not want to sabotage Liz's happiness. She had put in far too much energy and had been looking forward to the day ever since Lee proposed. I, however, thought it was too early for them to get married, and I did not go along well with Liz. Maybe you could put it into the age difference and maturity, but the past few weeks Liz had been nothing but a bridezilla. Well, the final notch had been asking me to color my hair different, just to appease her, as I had denied. I expected Liz would ask me to skip the wedding. Lee, however, did not want me to do so and wanted his sister by his side on his big special day. Lee hung up, saying he would have a word with Liz and tell her simply to back off. He said it's my hair and I should do with it as I please and not think too much about what Liz had said. However, it did not work out as I had expected. Lee had spoken to Liz, and Liz kept mum until, she could go to my parents with the matter. Jane and Isaac tried to mediate the situation and told me I should just listen to Liz and do what she wants. She told me that the planning of a wedding was a big task, which had been stressing Liz out, and so I should do whatever would make her happy. If she told me to make it blonde, I should just go ahead with it. Liz had gone behind mine and Lee's back and went to my parents, and they have taken her side. Wow. They told me it's her special day and that I need to be more accommodating, as it was important for our future relationship that we get along well. I believed I was accommodating enough with Liz as it was. Liz can do whatever she wants with her own hair. I did not understand why my hair was anyone's business at all. I put Liz's behavior to teenage emotions and simple mood swings. Hopefully, they get better after the wedding was over and she grows a bit older. I asked my parents what they had meant when they said that it was important that Liz and I get along. So, they told me that Lee had gotten a job 4 states away. So for the first few months of his new job, he would not be living with Liz. Until he could save up and get an apartment. He would be living at the company's accommodation. Meanwhile, Liz would be living with us. Me and my parents, as she could not afford an apartment herself, and Jane and Isaac told me that Lee had kept this secret from me to announce it as a surprise later. But Jane and Isaac just decided it's time I knew this was a well-kept secret. My parents told me that I should be the big person and go along with what Liz wants. I do not understand why an 18-year-old should be the bigger person compared to a 27-year-old me. Jane and Isaac told me that I was making this minor issue into a big problem and I should just do what Liz wants because it's her wedding, you know? I denied their request and felt so angry that everyone was taking her side. Was my hair color not natural, and Liz's was unnatural, rather artificial? The whole family is torn apart, and my brother, Lee, has been caught in the midst of it. I feel conflicted by my actions and do not know if I'm doing right by standing up for myself, or maybe I should have given in to Liz. After all, it was her special day, and it was not wrong of her to want to be a center of attention. So guys, am I the a-hole for refusing my future sister-in-law's request to dye my hair for my brother's wedding? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh man, what a Bridezilla story we have today. I hope everybody's enjoying their day. If you guys are new to the channel and you want daily videos, it's so easy. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel and click that bell notification icon. That way, you'll always get alerted when I upload daily videos. Now, let's not delay. Let's jump right into the wedding day. Update number 1. The wedding, well, it's tomorrow. Liz had stopped pestering me about changing my hair color, and me and my parents, even Lee, had thought that Liz finally understood it, but that was far from the case. As of today, well, Liz took her revenge on me for saying no to her. I had been up all night working on an important project so that I could have a few days off for the wedding and enjoy myself for the upcoming days with my brother. I had ended up falling asleep on the couch in the living room when my mom and dad woke up. They took care to not wake me up and put a blanket over me as I slept. Liz had shown up, along with Annie, apparently to confront me. Seeing as how I was asleep, Jane told them to instead talk quietly in my bedroom in order to not wake me up. Liz and Annie were left alone as my parents stepped out for chores. I was extremely tired and was thus in a deep sleep. Liz and Annie took this opportunity to destroy the dress that I have bought for my brother's wedding. I had played to Liz's whines and bought the same color she requested, but a rather expensive one, as you know. I wanted to look good. This meant my dress was not dull at all and was in an even better style than the bridesmaids. Liz and Annie decided to spoil it with what? Well, paint. And when I would have nothing to wear to the wedding, they would offer me one of the plain dresses Liz had bought. After destroying my dress, Liz and Annie decided to ruin my hair. They mixed up some hair color they had brought along with them and applied it on me as I slept. I woke up when they were trying to wash the color off, and my hair was coming out in bits and pieces, and I was too sleepy and in a shock to say a word to them. As I ran to the bathroom and slammed the door shut, I stabled myself and looked on the mirror for what felt like ages. I ran a hot bath, just to try to wash the mess off my head without damaging any more of my hair, but the damage was done. Liz and Annie, well, had applied a disproportionate amount of hair color and product, and it had an adverse effect on my hair. It thinned down, and was now a dirty blonde with bits of red at the roots, so I broke down and absolutely started crying. I dried myself and my hair and ran over to where Liz and Annie were sitting, giggling to themselves. I unleashed all the anger that had bubbled up inside of me ever since I met Liz. I said mean things to her and told her to get out of my house and never come back again. I told her that if she was wise, she would not marry my brother and stay away from him and my family, or I would make her life absolutely miserable. Liz looked scared, and she and Annie hurriedly went out, leaving me standing alone in my house, looking like an absolute mess. Well, I stood in shock, as I was still traumatized, and thought for what felt like ages I did not know how I was going to attend my brother's wedding, looking like this. I did not know if there was going to be a wedding after what I told Liz. When my parents arrived, I cried to them and they consoled me and agreed that Liz had gone too far. They told me that they would have a word with Lee and try to solve it. I went back to bed and woke up to Lee sitting beside me. He looked sad, and I could tell it from his face that he was torn between his family and his fiancée. So, I actually noticed Liz in the doorway looking smug. I told Lee I want to talk to him in private and closed the door on her. I broke down in front of Lee and told him that I would understand if he did not want me to attend his wedding anymore. Lee, however, was calm and gentle as ever as he tried to console me. He asked me to forgive Liz and said that he would handle her. Well, I was surprised the wedding was still on track after all the drama that had been happening. I opened the door and Liz stood there with her head down. With tears streaming down her face, she apologized and told me that the wedding stress had gotten to her and Annie had persuaded her to go ahead with her revenge. I forgave her and told her that I would come to the wedding just for my brother's sake, but she would not be allowed to stay at my house when Lee would be going to his new job. I told Liz that she would have to get a job and support herself as she was no longer welcome to stay here. I told her I would color my hair the color it was, so her revenge idea had pretty much failed. Since Liz had been wanting the attention all to herself, that would be the only thing she would not get. Lee asked me to not talk about any of this to other family members, and I agreed to keep Liz's little secret safe. This meant I now had a hold over her reputation amongst the family, and as she would no longer be staying with us, she would have to work hard just to support herself. This felt as if my revenge against Liz for what she did was complete. Hey everyone, my name's Stacy and I'm an accountant and I've been married to the love of my life for about 5 years now. He has a younger sister who's always so busy with work. I've never actually met anyone who's so in love with their work as Jolene is. You see, Mark's father is a business tycoon. As much as he's feared, he's also loved. Crazy, right? Mark's aunt, who is his mother's younger sister, stays at home and takes care of the house, while everyone else goes to work. Their mother passed on when they were young, and I don't really know a lot about her because Mark prefers not to talk about her. I met Mark in graduate school. He was not the happiest person because his father had pressured him to enroll in graduate school in order to have more knowledge about running the family business. He never really cared if he obtained good grades or not. He just wanted it to be over. One day, we were given a group project to work on, and he was my partner. And it was then that he realized that I have been eyeing him for quite some time. I was so shy around him, and he made me grow butterflies in my stomach. We went through a talking stage of about 6 months, and then we started dating. I could not believe it, as it was, and it still is, too good to be true. After we graduated, he suggested that I work in his father's company. But I felt like I needed my own freedom, so I decided to find a job elsewhere. 2 years after our graduation, Mark proposed to me and I happily accepted. We shared our dreams as we went on our honeymoon, and one of the dreams that we had was to have babies. My marriage is the best thing that has ever happened to me as it gives me someone to share everything with. somebody to count on and someone who cares for me and returns my love. We are the best team anyone can ever come across, and I must say that his family has been so nice to me and I appreciate them so much. Although we've been going through a phase that is eating me up so much, I still love Mark unconditionally. We've been trying to have a baby ever since we got married, but we've been failing over and over again. We've followed so much of different doctors' advice, but absolutely no luck. I don't know if it's hurting him in the same way it does me. I've tried to, talk to him about it just to feel like he's not really with me. Well, all I want in this world is to be a mother. I want my blood to run around the home. I do. I feel like I'm failing my in-laws, and I don't know what else to do to have a baby. I'm 41 years of age, and I'm so scared that I might never have a child. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So today's story is very unique. The time frame on this one is spread out a lot. In fact, OP did not return to update the first original post for nearly 3 years, and update number 1's going to hit us with quite a shocker. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for daily videos, and let's see what's going on with OP 3 years later. It's been 3 years since my last post, and I've given up on trying to have children because clearly I'm not meant to have kids. They say that crying for what you don't have is wasting what you do have, so I have accepted it. What have I done that I'm not meant to be a mother? I can never understand why the universe wants me to suffer like this. My father-in-law has been pressuring me about getting children, and it hurts me every time because he has no idea how much I've tried to fulfill that wish. Everyone at home has started looking at me differently, and their treatment is also different towards me. Aunt Judy has suggested that I start helping out in the house as I'm useless. She says that I failed them all, and I thought they were nice people, but the colors they're showing here say otherwise. I guess the first impression really matters because they got me thinking that they are a family of nice people. I guess Mark is the only genuine person in his whole family. I wish I could say the same about his sister, but I hardly talk to her, so I can't really tell if she is or not. I started helping out in the house. As Aunt Judy said, although I help her out, it hurts me as she says that I'm useless because I cannot bear children. A few days ago, I had an encounter with her. She demanded that I make dinner, and I was absolutely exhausted from work. Well, I was not in the position to make dinner or any kind of physical work. I made dinner and served the family silence, and, it covered the room as they tasted the food. They all started spitting loudly as the food tasted like trash, they say. Well, I don't know. I knew I had tasted the food when I cooked it, and it was okay. I could not understand where the salt came from, and it's been disturbing my mind ever since. I know that I'm not really a great cook, but neither am I that bad. Everyone looked at me with disappointment. And then Mark. He came and wanted to rescue me from his family lectures about my cooking, and he ordered takeaway and they all waited. I ran to the room and did not want to see anybody's face. Mark came to the room to comfort me, but I was untouchable, since I was boiling with fury and disappointment in myself for cooking trashy food, and I quote you this. It's not your fault that the food wasn't good. You just came from work. Auntie should have sympathized with you and just done her chores as usual. I know that you can cook well, honey. Don't feel bad. Mark said to me with sympathy as he massaged my shoulders, and I did not have the words to answer him because I knew he was just trying to make me feel better. I just wish that these people could understand what my husband and I are going through, because we did not choose to go through this. Now they look at me like a stranger just because I failed to give them what they want most. Man, life is so unfair. If this continues, I'll be forced to move out of this house because I cannot stand to be treated like this. Mark is hardly at home as he is a CEO of his father's company, so he hardly has free time on his hand. I've tried telling him about how his family has started treating me, but he did not seem like he believed me at all. At least if I cannot have children, can I at least have a normal relationship with my in-laws? This house and this family is mine until death, and I already cannot stand them. How will I cope with this kind of people around me every time? My husband, on the other hand, thinks I'm starting to get paranoid with his family, but the thing is that I just want to be treated like a part of the family and not like a pet. I did not know that the lack of childs in a house can bring sadness and problems between families. I'm considered barren even though I've given them the doctor's papers that clearly state I am not. They all blame me for not getting pregnant, as if Mark is not needed for the baby-making process. I'm apparently at fault, and it does not sit well with me that I'm getting blamed. What if the problem is with Mark? I'm no longer part of the decision-making in the house because I've apparently failed everyone. Update number 2, 1 year later. Hey guys, so it's been a year since my last update, and I'm excited to announce that I'm finally a mother. I'd lost all hope of having a child, and I thought that it was not meant to be for me to have children. If I had not fallen, I would have never found out on time that I was in fact pregnant. Mark says that it's just the exhaustion of office work combined with house chores. I was busy mopping the house right after work, and I fell to the ground and lost consciousness. I later woke up in the hospital, and the doctor told me that I was hurt a little on the head from the fall, but the baby was okay. The baby? I cried as he told me because my dream was finally coming true. I asked him to let Mark in, and I shared the news with him, and I was so overjoyed. Now that I've granted my in-laws' wishes, they have changed again. I must say that this family is very confused and hard to understand as well. I get all the attention in the house now, and I'm not allowed to even move a muscle. I mean, I really do love the attention, but I don't like staying in bed doing nothing because it makes me feel absolutely useless. I recently had an argument with my father-in-law as he wants me to quit my job and become a stay-at-home mom. I did not go to graduate school just to be a stay-at-home wife, you know. I know that children need extra care and they would want their mother by their side every time, but I want to secure a future for them. I don't care how rich Mark's family is, I just want to play the most part in my children's lives. Mark's father was most definitely surprised because no one's ever talked back to him. Stacy, from now on you'll be staying at home to take care of the children. I don't want my grandchildren to grow up without a mother. If there's anything that you need, just call Judy and she'll get it for you. We need your energy to grow 3 musketeers. That's right. Triplets. I'm glad you finally considered having children. He said to me with a smile on my face, and then I replied to him, Mr. Marco, it's not because I don't want to have kids. It was completely out of my control as much as it was a disturbance to you as to me. I'm glad you're satisfied and happy with the daughter-in-law that you have now. Unfortunately, I wish to go back to work as soon as the children turn 9 months of age. I've already discussed it with my husband and he agreed. His smile changed quickly just like lightning. In case you did not know, I do not need to discuss things. I say these things and you should just do them. So it's not something to discuss, but rather than I say you do and you do. So I expect to see you in this house every single day. He said in such a bitter voice, and I could not help but get the answer back to him. In this house where I'm from, we discuss topics and hear everyone's take on the opinions before making a decision. So my take on this is that I'm not going to quit my job just to please you, sir, with all due respect. He was not at all happy with me, and I can almost say that he would have thrown a slap in my face if it wasn't for Mark, who interfered as soon as he entered the room. Mark looked at me with relief, as he was just in time to save me from his father's sharp words. He knew that whatever his father was going to say was not going to be something I would want to hear. I smiled at Mark as his father walked out of the room, and I quote you this. Why did you tell him already? I was waiting for the right time to tell him, you know. You know how my father behaves when someone says no to whatever he's saying. You have to be careful around him. I don't want him to say anything offensive that'll make you sad," Mark said to me with pity in his eyes. I immediately felt pity for him, as if it was an indication that his father has hurt him his whole life, and he never had the courage to talk back or stand up for himself. I cannot be treated like a dog or some circus animal, and it's not because I don't have respect for my father-in-law. I respect him very much, and I expect him to respect me too. I don't want to stay home like a suitcase, and he'll have to accept and respect my decision because this is my life. And I'll not allow him to live my life for me. The whole family loves him, yet they fear him, and I know there's nothing I can do to free Mark from his father's role. But I can stand out and be different. He may say offensive things to me now and then, but I don't really care. Someone has to teach him how to be a real father to his kids, and at least now I can understand why Jolene is always working, because she's always trying to please her father, and it's not love for work, but rather an obsession for work and a cry for a father's love. This family has a really weird way of showing love, I must say. Well, I'll be back for more updates soon. Update number 3, 6 months later. Wow, time flies by, doesn't it? It feels like yesterday when I told you about the children and about my father-in-law's behavior as a father and a head of the house. The weather in this house is so different, and when I mean weather, I mean the people. Different relationships, interactions, and everything social about them all. One time they love you, then boom, the next moment they want nothing to do with you, and I just hope you remember my sister-in-law, Jolene. We finally had a conversation, and she shocked me to the core. She entered the living room from the office and sat on the couch close to my babies. She picked up Jolene and said, "This baby is so adorable. I wish I could have a baby, but I'm so busy with work and will not have time for labor pain and craving and all these crazy feelings that come with pregnancy. I would love to make you a deal. I want to adopt her and make her my baby, and I promise to take care of all the children's needs until they're independent. What do you say?" Well, I looked at her with absolute disgust. How do you want to reach the destination without going through the journey? And here I thought that the father was crazy, but she is even crazier. I said to her, "Hello to you, Jolene." The sarcasm. "You've never said hi to me once. Never have you asked if I'm okay when I was pregnant. And never have you ever asked if I was craving anything. And now you show up and tell me some nonsense about taking my children away, huh? Why do you think I told your father that I was not going to be a stay-at-home mother? That's because I don't want my children to be dependent on anyone else except for their parents." Well, honestly, she could not believe the first ever conversation that we have went sideways so quickly. I'm about to give my child away and let her grow up under the dictatorship of his family. Her father later came home and Jolene put on an act. She started weeping out loud, and her father asked her what was wrong, and it was for her to tell him that I have insulted her when she was only asking politely to have one of my children. She referred to my baby as if she were some doll. How can I give someone like that the life and, well, needs of my child? Her father was not at all happy with me. He walked towards me, and I quote, "What Jolene says is, well, my say. This is what she is, my personal assistant. So I'll call the lawyer and get ready for the adoption. You have said no to me once, and I do not do anything to you because you have given me grandchildren, but do not do it again," he said to me without a smile. "No, father-in-law, I'm not giving my children away to her or anyone else." I replied to him with anger, and there was nothing to be happy about because they were planning on taking my children away from me. They have no idea how many times I cried myself to sleep because I thought I was going to live and grow old without children. They have no idea how much I've cried when they started looking at me and treating me like a male tree. And how much I've been hurt when they said it was my fault that I could not have children. And now that I'm blessed with children, they want to take them away from me. I'm going to stand my ground and refuse whatever their deals are because none of my children's lives is worth money on material things. I'll do anything to protect my kids, even if it means leaving this house, and I will not let them do this to me. I am no one's surrogate. I was also so busy with work, but I had to go through the 9 months of craving and other things to see my children. Why is her father expecting her to work every time and still wants her to have children? Who does he really think he is? No one gives a crap about his money. He acts as if he owns the world, but he doesn't, and he most definitely does not own me. Anyways, let me log out for now. I have to check up on the little ones. Update number 4. Hey guys, so it's actually been about 3 months since my last update, give or take, and it's not going well with this house. Not at all. Everyone is on my case and they're trying to make my life a living hell, because I chose not to give away one of my babies to Jolene. I have to ask Mark just to move out of the house so many times, but his father's threatening him and now Mark is even scared of leaving. Well, just to go to work. He's being a mommy's boy and he has no idea that this is hurting me. Even though he's forced to take his father's side and not mine, he's still my husband and I expect him to do just as we vowed to do. On our wedding, he vowed to always defend me and my dignity, and he vowed to always be with me in everything, and now he's taking his father's side. His father threatened him that if he leaves the house, he'll be fired and cut out of the will. Does money matter more to him than to our children and me? I'm starting to hate his father so much because he's making my stay in the house so painful. All I want is to have a life that I deserve, just like any other mother out there, so the fight for Jaylene continues in the house, and it's only me against them, as not even my husband is on my side. All he says is this: "Oh, just let her have her baby. We can always adopt another child." Why should I adopt a child when I already have 3 babies? So, Jolene is so special that she cannot go and adopt from the orphanage, apparently, and does she just want my child? I'm planning on running away from here and disappearing for good, because that is the only way I can think of to keep my babies out of harm's way of all these crazy people. I'm willing to leave Mark if that means I will have some sort of peace. I even feel like the spark between us is fading because he does not have it in him to stand against his father and protect what he actually loves the most. Well, what if he loves his family more than his own children? Something that is so important more than anything is just mental health, And right now I'm going through a lot. I'm no longer allowed to eat at the family table, nor am I allowed to eat food prepared by anyone, and I'm also not allowed to touch any spices or cooking utensils. I had to buy everything on my own in order to eat something, and Mark sometimes tries to help out, but he's monitored by his father's men, and if he helps out too much, his credit cards will be blocked. What a life a man is putting his children through and then claiming that he loves them, huh? Well, I now have to do my own laundry and clean the room on my own, and this is as good as renting, and it's not doing me any justice. They have cut me off for good and said that until I decide to give away my baby to Jolene, I will be a stranger. They even had the audacity to move my husband out of the room, and Mark ran to do it just like the little puppy that he is, and I hate this place and everything that comes with it, and I regret everything except having my babies. You have no idea what kind of pain I'm feeling right now. This is a house of torture, and now I understand why Jolene and Judy are not married, because nobody wants to marry in a house of crazy people. I was blinded by love, but I cannot say that the love is still here. Update number 5. It's been 2 years, and this is my final post. A year and a half ago, I had almost lost my children for good. When Marco and his family realized that I was not giving them Jaylene, even with the torture they put me through, they decided that I was to be thrown out of the house and leave all the children, so I woke up in the morning as usual to make myself breakfast, as I was never included in the family meals, and as I walked past the living room, I noticed Jolene and Marco standing there, and they stared at me as I walked past. I did not bother to greet them, as I was not even allowed to talk to anyone. Marco called unto the guards, and they hurriedly showed up in the living room, and his calling startled me, and I stood still.
"Now, Stacy, you have 1 minute to choose between giving Jolene one of your children and leaving this house, and remember that when you leave here, all the children will remain behind. Not allow my grandchildren to leave with a shameless and ungrateful person like you, so what's it going to be?"
He said to me, and usually I would answer back, but I was in no position to say anything because I would end up losing all my babies. One way or the other, I had to stand up for myself and put him in his place. "Something that you're supposed to know, Marco, is that you disgust me. And when I see your ugly face, I feel like throwing up, and you can't possibly take my children from me. A mother's love is mandatory to the children, and that is why your children cannot stand against your stupid rules, because they have no mother to teach them how to." I said to him with absolute fury in my eyes, and he could not stand the truth and come forth and slap my face. A tear rolled down my cheek.
Guards, take her away and never let her come back here ever again."
He commanded the guards, and they grabbed me by the wrist, and I screamed my lungs out as the thought of not seeing my kids ever again went through my head. And I cried out. A voice from the upstairs hit the ears of everyone.
"Stop!"
And then we all looked up and saw that it was Mark. He ran downstairs and demanded that the guards leave me alone, and they did.
"I have had enough of you and your stupid dictatorship, Dad. If Stacy says she'll not give her children away, then she will not. Why do you always use the force to gain respect? Respect is earned and not demanded for, Father. For once, be responsible and encourage your daughter to have a baby if she badly wants to have one. My wife and I will not be giving away our children to Jolene. I'm sorry, Dad."
Mark finally spoke up to his father. Marco could not believe that his own son had spoken up against him, and Mark quickly went to my room and carried the children out, and when he came back I helped him carry the children and we left. He left the whole family shocked that no one had the energy to actually even try to stop us. He quit his job as his father's company was slowly approaching bankruptcy, and his father had no money to make our lives hard anymore, and I could not thank Mark enough. Although it took him a long time, he still stood up against his father and protected his children. I'm now back at work, and Mark managed to find a job as he is a child of a famous man. So I ask you guys this. Am I the a-hole for intentionally turning a family against itself? And I first thought that my stay at their house was going to be remarkable. Little did I know that they were all living in their father's hell. I'm glad Mark manned up to put Marco in his place and show him the real world. He gave up his inheritance and cut the whole family off. Have you ever had the experience of owning everything in the world, only to watch it fall apart just because human trust and love are fickle things and change with slight provocation? Well, I've had the first-hand experience of possessing everything a woman can desire and then losing it all in front of my own eyes, despite trying to hold on to it to the very end. When I met John, I'd only been 24 years old, and I'd been during university exam days when two fools caught themselves reading under the lamplights after the lights were turned off in the dormitories. Both of us were business and administration students, and John was my senior by a year. It wasn't love at first sight. No, we fell for each other after studying together night after night after night, and when John graduated, he took different jobs around the campus for a year. Just to stay close to me at the moment I graduated, we moved in together, just as John had secured a job in a company's management location. Suddenly, life had become too perfect for me, and we spent 5 years together. Before tying the knot, I became his lawful wife. John was very close to his family and often visited them with me or without me. I became close to Sarah. But there was something about her that kept me from opening up to her as a friend would. Caleb was nice, a caring guy who never differentiated between me and his own sister. The four of us had been friends until we weren't. Before marriage, John and I had not faced any problems in our relationship, but things took an ugly turn right after we returned from our honeymoon and visited John's family. Where I'd been excited to become a part of the Stevens family, I was surprised at the sudden change in their behavior, especially that of Sarah's. I didn't pay much attention to her because I was happy with John. We just became official and begun our lives together. Then, after 3 years of marriage, John had begun acting frustrated around me. At first, I was confused and I wondered if I'd done something that he simply did not like. But I knew that it wasn't how he was. Whatever bothered him, he used to tell me instead of keeping it in his heart and becoming detached. That's how we'd survive so many years together. We'd face every single problem head on and had to learn to lean on each other through thick and thin. And that's why this change in behavior has just come to shock me. Well, after a couple weeks of bearing his frustration, I decided it's time to confront him. That's when he burst out. All the pent-up frustration and anger towards me was released, and I simply could not believe the words that he said. Well, he accused me of cheating on him with not one but 2 guys. He was absolutely furious to find out that I had been such a woman and had successfully deceived him for many years. The accusation was too harsh for me to even want to accept, and despite myself, I could not say a word. I was shocked, stunned, absolutely horrified. John took my silence as acceptance of all the accusations. Then he told me that he was confused about why I was even with him. When I'd pulled myself out of the initial shock that I had, well, I demanded that he tell me from where he heard such appalling lies, and how on earth had he even believed something like that about me, his wife, and the love of his life, as he had so many times before said. After a slight hesitation, he told me how his sister, Sarah, Sarah seen me with a man. I'd been furious and outright rejected John's claims, but I was a couple weeks late. I had no idea what Sarah had fed him all this time. He kept insisting that he trusted his sister because she had proof. Instead of further discussing the matter with John, I decided to approach Sarah herself. I'd wanted to know what she'd seen and what made her think that I was secretly meeting somebody behind my husband's back. I just wanted to know what made her hurl such accusations in my directions. After so many years of being part of the family, what had I done so wrong that she had taken such a cruel step to me? I honestly just didn't know. Now, here's another mistake I'd made. I did not get her alone to talk. Instead, I blurted out the question at the dinner table with my mother-in-law and younger brother-in-law in attendance. I still remember that awkward silence that had been fallen, and how Sarah had met each and every question staring with sorrow heavy on her face. It's been an act. I'd been a fool to believe her. Sarah had asked me about the man I'd met twice outside the office. At first, I didn't understand who she could even be talking about since I dealt with many very important clients, and I handled all their accounts. But when I realized that she's been talking about Mr. Peter Harrison, a VIP customer of the bank that I've been working at, I'd met him inside and outside my office many times, and that's where Sarah got the bright idea that I was secretly involved with somebody else. Instead of confronting me about what she had witnessed, she spun a tale of lies around a grain of truth. I tried to clear my name by telling my in-laws about Mr. Harrison, even risking the violations of the terms of confidential agreement signed between me and the clients. I should have realized that it wasn't going to be enough, not when Sarah had talked about me to all members of the family. She'd fed them her imagination and her own interpretations. My in-laws focused on the name instead of the context, and when I tried to tell them that Mr. Harrison had just been a client that I've been handling the case of, they believed that I've been doing some shady business with a rich guy. When I'd realized that my words had absolutely no impact on my husband or his mood at the dinner table, I decided to clear the air once we were alone. I mean, I was absolutely just baffled at his behavior anyways, and his simple lack of interest in me when I started discussing the subject again. My life or my husband had blinded me. I took his silence as his trust was restored in me, and when he came back to our apartment after spending the weekend at his mother's, John's behavior simply did not change. It was more confusing than ever, and one night I'd planned to do something I had not done before. I'd unblocked his phone as he'd slept and went through his messages and emails. Sure enough, Sarah was telling him all this stuff about me. She'd shared some photos of my clients with a couple of them in comfortable settings. She clicked them at such angles that they were easy to misinterpret. In an absolute rage, I had not thought twice before sending warning messages to my sister-in-law from my husband's phone. I told her that if she kept up with her lies, I was not going to let her be. Sarah had not dared reply when the phone was in my hand. But the next day, John was furious at me. He accused me of going through his personal belongings without permission when I'd been the one acting out. What? I dared him to go through my records as well if he suspected me. It's been a mistake that still haunts me even today. But in my defense, I had not thought that Sarah would play such a cheap trick. Sarah, see, she has been far more creative than I could give credit to her for. I don't know how, but she'd left a string of messages on my phone from a number unknown, and John had been the first one to read them in my phone's archive. In my defense, I didn't know whose number it was, and I hadn't replied to any of them, but everything that was mentioned in the message was too much to ignore. The adult content on the messages was clearly from someone who knew me well, and I'd been sure that it's been Sarah. John moved out of our apartment after that, and back with his family without giving me a chance to even utter an explanation, and I had nothing to tell him either. Later, I tried to contact his mom and his younger brother, but both of them told me that they're simply disappointed in me for hurting John the way that I did. They were mad at me for cheating on him, for seeking other men behind his back. They refused to listen to my protest and explanations and told me to never contact them again. The last message John left for me was that both of us have been together for a long time, and it was about time we took a break from seeing each other and see where we stood after that. It's been very hard for me to believe that something like that would happen to someone like me, the woman who'd given so much for the man she loved only to lose his trust and affection to a lie. It'd been too much for me to take, and I'd found myself struggling with acute depression. John and I spent 3 months apart, and during that time we got to talk only once. By then I could tell there was no saving my marriage because John's mind was full of Sarah's poison to the brim. There had been no room for me left in his heart. That's when we decided to divorce and part ways. Our divorce was settled with little to no drama. John had wanted everything he'd spent on me and given to me back, honestly. It hurt me a lot, but I complied with his request because somehow I was still in love with him. When I'd handed over my share of the apartment and everything he'd purchased for me, including the gifts, I never turned back. But that did not mean I'd move on. It's been 2 years, and for 2 years I've tried to date and meet new people, but I can't. My heart still lies shattered, and I can't move on no matter how hard I try. He'd left me alone, a woman who did not have any peace or place or anyone to go to. And whenever I think about John and everything that I've lost, I end up thinking about the woman who'd been mastermind behind the ploy against me. Sarah Stevens. It's the reason I'm here on this platform, sharing my story that I've kept to myself for a very long time. I hold her wedding invitation in my hand, the one I stole yesterday when I spotted her. She was at the station when I saw her. I'd been curious to know how the woman who destroyed my life was doing, and I could barely restrain myself from lashing out at her when I saw her glowing with happiness. It looked like she had the whole world at her feet. Sarah Stevens is in love, and she's getting married to Mason Day, who's John's friend and a boss at work. No matter how hard I try, I can't let Sarah get her happy ending after ruining me. I can't do it. I have a few ideas on how to get back at her. It's all I can think about since yesterday, and I know that I can't have more regrets and missed opportunities on my conscience again. I'm gonna go ahead with my plan, or two, but I find myself wondering if I'll be wrong to get back at her. If not, then what can I do? Update number 1. Hey guys, there are many reprimanding comments on my first post, and I understand what each and every one of you have been trying to tell me. Revenge isn't going to bring me happiness that I've lost. I know. I'm also aware that playing Sarah's game on her won't make me any different from her. But guys, let me tell you, I'm restless. I can't erase her radiant face from my mind. How could she even smile like that after doing something so cruel to me? I just respected the people who tried to make me look at the bright side of all this experience I'm going through. In the comment section, you guys were very helpful. Yes, I parted ways from John before he could leave me in the future for something else. If not this, because he's been a weak man. But this has nothing to do with my desire to exact revenge on Sarah. Those who advised me to let Sarah begin her new life because karma's going to get her back for what she's done. I ask you, what is karma? Once I'd believe in it too, but I've waited for 2 years, and it doesn't look like Stevens is going to face it anytime soon, unless I deliver karma right to her doorstep. And that's what I've already set my plan into motion to do. See, Sarah Stevens thinks that she owns the world. She does. She relies on others to do her stuff, to serve her, and in doing so, she doesn't realize the amount of information she left behind. This is exactly what has worked in my favor so far. You see, after my first post, I submitted 3 weeks leave request at my workplace. It's about darn time I take break from work, which I've been doing like crazy to keep my mind from wandering in the past. When it was granted, I began tailing Sarah as she went around the city, just arranging for her dream wedding. That's where I'll hit her. For Sarah Stevens, the event is very important. She's investing more than she's ever done for anything else. Often, I see her brothers tag along with her, and they, too, are holding back when it comes to their, dear sister's wedding. Well, I plan to show them her real face if they haven't seen it already. Yesterday, I got my hands on a list of Sarah's bookings for her special day. She'd left her stuff with her helper, Jenna, whom she'd hired for the wedding duration to accompany her. She's a poor girl who's absolutely terrified of Sarah. And after a few coaxing words and some cash, she let me take the pictures and her booking confirmations. I have her wedding band contract details, the menu she's deciding to use for the wedding caterers, information on her deal with the photographers and videographers, as well as the details about the outdoor wedding venue that she has booked. That's right. It's a beautiful place, and it just seems like yesterday when John and I visited the same venue. I trusted her then because I had no reason to. Only now I realize that she's been playing the game for a long time. But why? Well, I'm going to find out. Well, this is the update for now. I've got some calls to make, some plans to overthrow. I'll update you guys soon. Update number 2. Hey everyone. I see a few comments on my last post, but I'm glad to know that there are some who can understand my situation, as well as my intention to get back at Sarah for everything that she's done to me. Only those who suffered a loss, as I have, will be able to understand the nightmare I've been living in for the past few years. See, Sarah's wedding and my scheming to ruin it has become something I look forward to every single day. After years, I feel excited every morning when I wake up. I'm sure that once I get back at Sarah and tell everyone what she's done to me, yeah, only then I'll be able to move on. I'm telling you guys, she's an absolute vile woman, and everyone around her should just see her true colors for who she is. She's hurt me without any apparent reason, and God knows how many people she's hurt over the years. I talked about Sarah during therapy, and well, I talked to my therapist that I believed I'd only be able to move on when Sarah would beg for my forgiveness, and the only way to make it possible is to make her experience a loss. As expected, my therapist has tried to talk me out of it, but I'd let the thought keep me going, and here I am now. Well, I've set the stage. All that's left is to see how Sarah's events will play out. She hasn't suspected anything so far, nor does her family, and I hope that it'll remain so. After this is done, I know that there's no way John will accept me again, nor will I want to be a part of his life anymore anyways. Well, this is for me to find some peace, and for Sarah to feel what I'd felt all those years ago. I want John to realize the mistake that he's made, and live his life with regrets knowing that he's given up on his love, not the other way around. I can't wait for Sarah's big day to come, and I'm going to be there to watch her suffer. Update number 3. Hey guys, so things escalated more than I predicted, by the way. Yesterday was Sarah's big day, and I'd pulled some strings to be there among the guests. I'd put on a vibrant red gown and had let my hair down in loose curls. I'd changed so much over the years that John simply did not even recognize me. Even though he did stop to take a second look, the distance worked in my favor. I tried my best to steer clear of Stevens during the event, or whatever was left of it. When I arrived at the wedding venue, there was a commotion. The guests roamed here and there, confused, with little effort. I'd switched the outdoor setting to indoor, and had reduced much of the decoration. The staff had suspected me, but I had a copy of their deal with Sarah, and our old pictures together to convince them that I was family. Changing the venue had been a far-fetched idea, because the staff could have just contacted Sarah, but to my relief, they had not, as the outdoor venue had gotten booked instantly after I canceled Sarah's booking. Once the guests had settled into my dimly lit hall, the bride and groom's family waited for the wedding band. When it didn't show up, I noticed the family making these frantic phone calls and overheard Caleb talking to them on the phone. Later, all the guests heard the bride shout at her brother to find out who switched the booking date. This matter, well, had not been dealt with at all. When the family faced another problem, the catering staff, they did not show up and there was no food. So, what do we do now? Within a couple hours, it became evident that the wedding could not go on. The guests had started to leave, they were in a foul mood and kept telling Grace Stevens that they're simply disappointed. That's when I took my chance to make my presence known. The Stevens were shocked to see me, and it did not take long for Sarah to put 2 and 2 together. See, she'd known instantly that it was me who decided to ruin her special day. I will never forget the expression on her face, and on John's face. They were horrified and had the guts to be mad at me. That's when I told them to ask what brought the chaos on. I told them to ask Sarah what she's done for me to do something like this to her. Furious, Sarah shouted at me that she'd seen me for who I was, and that's why she made sure to kick me out of her family. I felt as if she'd been jealous of me becoming part of their family, and she was far from feeling apologetic for it. John and Grace had been shocked to hear such truth from Sarah's mouth. She was crying and cursing me while her fiancé stood aside, watching the true face of the woman he was going to marry. When Sarah admitted to everything in front of everybody, I didn't buy it. Not when she kept insisting that she's done her brother a favor by getting someone like me out of his life. At the exchange, John had turned to me with an apology and regret written all over his face. That had been my cue to leave. I've avenged the hurt that Sarah caused me, the humiliation I'd felt in front of John's family and friends. I've lived in agony all these years, and now I simply feel exhausted, empty. The revenge plan had consumed my thoughts for days, and now that I've gotten back at her, I don't know where to turn my focus to next. John called me last night. At first, I did not attend to his call, but when he kept calling and sending messages, I had no choice but to hear what he had to say. Yeah, as expected, he had nothing but apologies. He'd let anger get the better of him, and his blinding trust in his sisters had made him believe her. I listened to everything he had to say without saying a word because I had none. Nothing. I'd cry all the tears and said all the words in my heart. I simply had nothing to offer him. When he was done, I told him to never call me again because I've moved on. I'd like to thank the people who actually tried to understand me instead of trying to stop me from ruining Sarah's life. In my defense, I saved her fiancé from a lifetime of betrayal. I believe if a person can be selfish enough to destroy somebody's life, somebody close, then that person's capable of destroying so many more. Once a liar, always a liar. Update number 4. Well, after the last update, I had not thought that I'd be back here again, but it turns out my story's far from over yet. As I'd suspected, Sarah was not truly sorry for me. Not when she was cursing and crying in front of me on her big day. It's all been her desperation to set things right ever since then. Sarah Stevens came to see me earlier today when I was at work. My bosses were not happy, but I just requested half leave and got Sarah out of my workplace as fast as humanly possible. She told me that she was surprised at the way I ruined her wedding because she simply never thought I'd have the guts to do something like that. It was the first time the two of us were having some sort of decent conversations. And, well, I took the chance and asked the question which has bothered me all these years. Why me? Why? Well, turns out Sarah told me that she's never liked me. I was exactly the type of girl she hated at school and could not tell that I'd trample all over my brother's heart. She'd hated the attention her family paid me, and how I'd been changing their lives. Before me, Sarah had been the daughter of the house. Her brother had been close to her, and her mother had valued her opinions. It all changed when I'd become part of their lives. Her younger brother had tried to befriend me, and Grace began to adore me as her own daughter. Sarah had felt that I was robbing her of all the affection and importance she enjoyed the years. She hated that I was an orphan, and got to play the damsel in distress role for her brother to swoop in and save the day. She didn't want her brother to marry somebody he trusted blindly. She assured me that she would have let us stay married had John taken my side and chose to believe me instead of her. That was the honest truth. Even I could not deny that. Sarah had tried to prove that I wasn't worthy of her brother, but her scheming confirmed that it was John who wasn't worthy of me. After telling me all this, Sarah told me that it wasn't the reason she'd come to talk. See, she assured me that I've made a big mistake by ruining her wedding, and she was not somebody who would bury the hatchet easily. She told me to keep watching my back. I know what many of you will say after reading this, but in my defense, have I chosen to ignore Sarah and move on with my life, I would not have started this chain of vengeance. She's already hurt me enough, and I have no idea what she'll do me next. What is truly my fault that things have turned out this way? Guys, please let me know. Update number 5. Final update posted by OP. Hey guys, so The response of my last update's overwhelming, honestly. I had not even expected to see comments from so many people, especially not after what I've done despite you guys trying to talk to me. It's been 3 long weeks since the last update, and let me tell you that Sarah did come after me, but she had not been as careful as before. She's already taken me down once, and I believe she thought it would be no problem once again. This time, karma did get to her without me doing anything. It's true that anger and the fire of vengeance blinds a person and makes him do the things he never would have done otherwise. In her attempt to get back at me, Sarah had resorted to cheap tricks. A week ago, she visits my house when I was asleep. The house had been locked, so she had not been able to get in. But my neighbors had spotted her hovering around my house. They tried to call me and ask if I knew her, but my phone had been on silent. According to my neighbors, when she had not found a way to get in, Sarah had targeted my car instead. She tried to pour sugar into my car's gas tank, and the kids from the house next door recorded a video of her in the act, while their parents had called the police. I'd come to know the entire incident only when the police knocked at my door and asked if I knew Sarah. See, it turns out Sarah has tried to lie to the police. She told them she was my friend and was just playing a harmless trick on me. I told the police that she's lying. As a result, the police ended up dragging Sarah to the police station. I've been relieved for a while, but when John tried calling me again and asking for settling Sarah's case, I called him an absolute coward and refused to even help Stevens at that point. Taking advantage of Sarah's captivity, I filed a lawsuit against her. What she's done to me falls under criminal law, and she can end up in jail for it. I know many of you will just insist on letting her be, but I don't know. Let me assure you that she was not even slightly apologetic. She tried vandalism, and I doubt she'd let things slide that once she's out and about. I don't trust her because of the hatred in her heart and the extent that she can go to destroy somebody else's life. Today it was me, tomorrow it could be anyone. Seeing that Mason's day has called off the engagement as well, and things are hard for John at work, I believe that Mason has also seen something in his fiancée to take such a steep step. If a man truly loves a woman and trusts her, he'll stand against the world for her. John had not done that for me, and Mason had not done that for Sarah either. But in the end, well, both of us have lost the men we loved, and the family's trust for everything we've done. I don't regret getting back at Sarah. Never will, because if anything, my vengeance has brought many things to light. If Sarah's truly innocent and is willing to repent of her mistakes, she can enjoy her free life. Otherwise, she'll have to spend some time behind bars or in a rehabilitation center reserved for prisoners. Whatever happens in the future, well, I hope Sarah realizes her mistakes and vows to never repeat them again. Maybe both of us will find happiness one day. Until then, accept my gratitude for the response and support of all that you have shown. Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well, but I'm not because I feel stuck in a dilemma that I want to share with you. I'm Andrea, living with my brother Andrew, and I know there's a huge age gap between us. I'm 17 and he's 33. Well, there were a few reasons that I was told. The first was that Andrew was firstborn, which was rather unplanned, and after that Mom wanted a girl as well. But all 3 times either they were stillborn or were not able to survive. When Mom had the last hope, she had me, and I was the most cherished one by my parents. But as I grew up, my dad became distant from us and got married to somebody else. I was merely 12 years of age. Mom got depressed after he left us, and me and Andrew tried hard to accompany Mom or get her therapy. Andrew had already started earning by then, assuming himself as the man of the house, and took care of us. But somewhere, seeing my brother as an elder and taking all the responsibility, he barely had time to just be a brother and a son. Mom missed him as a kid, who was just her son, and that void was taken over by me as the younger sibling. Mom has been very inclined towards me. She felt that she could only be a mother to me in place of Andrew. Being a 13 to 14-year-old kid, I failed to realize that my mom's attitude made him cold towards me because I was the one who got priority. His jealousy was reflected in certain actions as well. He nitpicked the fights with me, refused to come home, passed snide remarks, etc. As a result, he grew up to be a rebel and always questioned and resented Mom's intentions. Mom, who was already battling with depression and trying to hold herself together, got further affected by his distant behavior, and her old insecurities crept in. She started fearing that one day Andrew would turn out like his dad. I regret that I could not notice that Andrew was burdening himself with responsibilities to remaining away from us. And this jealousy towards me for Mom's attention was the final nail in the coffin, that he refused to be with me under the same roof. He's been sending his money since I was in middle school, and my mom's battling depression and needs medical attention, but he hardly came home. Seeing Andrew withdrawing himself from us, she was cornered about me, since I would be left alone with Andrew. What could be the worst possibility that turns out to be true? You must be wondering why she feared me being alone with Andrew, so let me answer that. As she was diagnosed with a clinical depression and a brain tumor, there was hardly anyone left to look after me. But thankful Mom has her savings from the beach house, which she had received through alimony along with a few estates that she sold with the help of Andrew and gave me a greater share since Andrew had been earning well by then, and she did not want me to be a financial burden to him. She was also only worried about how I would manage to live by myself, so she took a promise from Andrew to look after me when she was no more. Though we were not unaware of the fact that Mom's health was taking a toll on her life, and soon the grief of her loss was going to be unbearable. When Mother passed away, that was when my life took a turn. On the day of her funeral, I came across someone else as well. Andrew's girlfriend, Gloria. She wasn't too bothered, although she was really warm and consoled me for the loss. I wasn't in a state to pay heed to her. I confined myself to the company of my grandma, where I sought my emotional comfort with her. Since that day, my grandma has taken the place of my mom, and I've shared every little detail of my life with her. While I was lost in the picking up the pieces of my life, I realized that Gloria and Grandma don't do well together, and I often found Andrew and Gloria on one side and Grandmother on the other. When Andrew proposed to Gloria that day, I got to know, that they were planning to get married in just a few days. It became pretty obvious to me that Grandma's not fond of Gloria. So, Andrew's wedding arrangements were not her subject of interest. She does not want to attend their wedding, and before leaving our place, she told me that she was just a phone call away and could come whenever I liked. I thanked her and said, why would I need to come over? She didn't want to upset me. She only said that maybe someday if I changed my mind or did not like being with him, she would be glad to keep me with her, and I did not mind that much, but she looked quite concerned before leaving. And in her stern voice, she told me to be aware specifically of Gloria. Well, I couldn't argue much, but I just nodded. I was grateful that Andrew did not turn out to be a bossy big brother after Mom, and neither did my sister-in-law Gloria. She was nice and easy to get along with, and Grandma used to call me every week, and I used to share everything with her. The void of Mom leaving was filled in a few months, and Gloria was like a big sister to me. I was grateful that I did not fall short of such people even after Mom left us. I lent a hand to her for house chores, running errands, etc. when I got time because I reached high school till then, and everyone was looking out for the majors and university admissions. I was studying for exams to get into college of my choice when I discovered that Gloria has become pregnant. Andrew wants me to take care of her, though I was busy. I tried to do as much as possible. Thankfully, my exams were completed without much interference due to Gloria's health condition, but I did not get a break even after taking exams because Gloria now had a huge baby bump and was 7 months pregnant. I looked after her as much as I could, but it wasn't easy because she turned out to be moody and her hormonal levels started messing up with my mental health as well. Andrew did not have any time to look after her because of her condition, which requires proper medical attention, and he was responsible for paying for it. I had to go with her to the regular appointments and grocery shopping, to do laundry, cleaning, and everything else required because as a younger sister, I was supposed to do it. Gloria often says that I've grown into a complete brat, and Andrew, along with Mom, has spoiled me. I hated her for bringing my mom in between, but I let her go, thinking she might be thinking straight and I should not worsen the environment due to her condition. But soon all my tiredness faded away as soon as I saw my result, which was grades. And with that, I was eligible to secure admission at the desired university. I could not wait to share this news with everybody, and when I gave it to Andrew, he was proud of me. But Gloria did not seem to be bothered by it, though, yes, she congratulated me. But I was in such a great mood that I ignored it. I shared this with Grandma, and she was overjoyed and reminded me that Mom must have been proud. I was hoping to receive emails from my desired university, and was delighted when I got them. But soon my happiness was overtaken by Andrew's anxiety due to, his Gloria condition. Due to certain complications they were facing during this time, Gloria, who has reached her 8th month of pregnancy, needs 24/7 attention, while Andrew cannot afford to leave his job to take care of Gloria. But I was glad that her 8th month had already arrived, and soon after her pregnancy, I would be allowed to have my own time. But I was wrong about that. When admission dates arrived, I was getting restless to secure my admission as soon as possible, but Andrew denied me permission. Meanwhile, Gloria, who was not in the right state of mind, dealing with anxiety, cravings, mood swings, was unable to move as frequently and use stairs, and I was responsible for staying with her at all times because Gloria's parents cannot come up to look after her as they reside in Russia. They also cannot understand the language or know the area to help her. I saw Gloria was getting extremely anxious due to the complications that the doctor had warned her about, but even they needed to understand that the last dates for admission are about to get over soon. I don't know what to do. Please suggest it to me fast. I'm confused, indecisive, and not much time is left to think about it. Update number 1. Hey there, guys. You guys were absolutely right about not risking my major life decisions due to such issues, and thanks for giving me confidence that I was not being selfish and thinking about myself, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. My chances of securing admission won't be coming again, and I can't risk my entire career life for them because it won't be worth it. However, it is a little insensitive to think that they could still try for another child if, God forbid, something bad happens to this one. So I've made up my mind to go to college and get my admission secured by hook or crook. I made a nice meal, took care of Gloria, and tried to keep her mood right because of her mood swings. She seemed to be in a good spirits now, and when Andrew arrived, I knew it was my time to give it a try to convince him. I came up with a solution to their worries and told them to hire a caretaker nurse just to look after Gloria for 2 to 3 days. Till then, I will be back from college. But my hopes were shattered when I realized that it was futile to convince them. He didn't listen to me. He thinks that I'm just a kid and don't know how things work, and looking at Gloria picking up drama, Andrew got nervous because of her dramatic reactions. Well, I couldn't do much. I've made up my mind that if he does not allow me to go, then I will do it the other way. So it was better to escape all this drama because I did not have enough time to deal with it. I took a shortcut. Late at night, I packed up my bags and everything. When people were deep asleep, I gave a call to Grandma about my arrival. She was eager to meet me and was already encouraging me to make life decisions without worrying about being a nanny to grown-ups. She was not wrong about it. Residing on the ground floor is always easy to escape from. I left a text message to Andrew along with the contact number for nurse in case anything goes wrong. At least I won't be blamed for it, and I quietly went away from home, reaching Grandmother's house in just a few hours. I had already looked for a bus ticket, and Grandma welcomed me. She didn't want me to leave ever, but I had to. When the deed was done, after all the formalities and other work required, I departed for home, hoping everything would be fine with them. I reached home trying to think of reasons that could make up for my reckless move. I thought of compensating for it by being the best sister to Andrew and taking care of his wife. As I expected, they were both upset that I left without telling them, but Andrew was happy that I got an admission and wanted to celebrate. But seeing Gloria sulking, he didn't dare do that. It was hard to cheer up Gloria, and I apologized for her being reckless. Somehow she was ready to forgive, though, but she had the belief that I would never leave her again. I nodded without understanding what she meant by that. She also said that she would name her daughter after me and make her godmother. But for that, she asked me to promise her that she would always be my first priority. When I asked about going to college, she said that family always comes first and I should not get myself obsessed with superficial stuff like every other teenager. Nothing feels right when we don't have anyone besides us, and I have already experienced the loss of my parents. She told me that I still had a chance to withdraw the admission because the place was too far from home, and I would miss them just like I did this time. Being a younger one and a favorite in my family, I would miss all the love and attention while living amongst strangers, and I'm still a little girl that she met a few years ago at my mom's funeral. She tried to warn me that I would regret my decision. After listening to her, she trapped me in the same dilemma as I was a few days ago by implanting doubts and fear in my mind. Update number 2. Hey guys, sorry I did not get a chance to inform you earlier. I am at my grandmother's place now, but I'm in a deep regret and despair situation. Thankfully, my classes are about to start soon, and I'm hoping that I'll get, away from all this. It all started with my most special day, which is now completely ruined. That special day was my birthday. Not just every birthday, but my 18th. When a typical teenager becomes a full-fledged adult, they could now make their own decisions, get a license, officially buy drinks. It was all fun and games, until you were made responsible for the consequences, and there would be no juveniles for it. So I was excited. I decided on my birthday dress and shortlisted the gifts that I would ask for from Andrew and Grandma. I woke up early due to restlessness, and I got several wishes at 12 a.m. I planned the theme of my party and decor and texted all my friends to be on time. I got up early in the morning and received a phone call from an unknown person. I thought it must be somebody from college wishing me a happy birthday, but it was a man who introduced himself as Mother's lawyer. Our family lawyer. Before I wondered why he told me that, as I've just turned 18 years old, I would be given access to all the money that was named under my mother for my educational purposes. So, he asked me when I would be free to fix an appointment with him to get started with my paperwork and verification process. He told me to come with Andrew because he would be handing over my money, which was taken care of by him. I told him once it was decided that I would revert to him soon. When I came upstairs, I found Andrew in his room with Gloria, and I was surprised to see him because it was a work day, and Andrew was home. They looked a little tense while discussing something, and I listened to them to know if they were in the right mood to break this news to about the lawyer. I heard from Gloria why I even needed to study. I was already too dumb to get a degree. She was quite surprised by my scores, and she never thought that I would be able to get enough to get into college. Andrew was worried and said that his mom wanted her to get into college. She comforted him, saying that I could do that afterward at any local university, but this time their baby was more important, and I, on the other hand, do not even know how to handle such amount of money. She brought his hand to her belly, saying that this was more important, and that they would spend the money on their future responsibilities. I was shocked I could not even control myself, and I barged into the room. Without giving a damn about their privacy, I asked how dare she think about what she would do with my money. I was so angry that I could slap her for calling me dumb. I threw their wedding picture lying on the bedside table and started throwing a tantrum. Andrew tried to stop me, but I had already lost control and started throwing things at him, saying he was a selfish brother, and he'll be worse father than our dad. He's no different from him and is married to Gloria, who's exactly like the woman who took our father away from us. Well, at that point, Andrew lost his cool and slapped me hard. I was heartbroken that he sided with Gloria, and I could resonate with Grandmother's place, who was alone, and Andrew, Gloria, on the other side. I started cursing her baby, wishing all hell upon it, just like they were doing with my life right now, and at that moment, The water broke. Andrew was shocked, trying to tell Gloria that she should not bother about me, but she could not stop reacting to my words and approached me in a direction to raise her hand, but instead, she couldn't balance herself after her feet had landed on one of the glasses at the floor, and she directly fell on her stomach. Andrew rushed to pick her up and told me to call an ambulance, but I left the room, banging the door behind me, leaving Gloria screaming in pain. When I started to pack my bags, I saw an ambulance come over, and I made my way to get out of my place, and I did not bother to go back to them, though I was a little worried about the unborn child. But staying away from them would be better to avoid further possibilities. When I came to Grandma's house, I vented my angers and sadness to her. She comforted me and said that Gloria had treated me like a house servant, and it made sense why she never wanted me to leave the pace in the name of the family being the first priority. It was only her upcoming child who would be the priority, and I was supposed to be a nanny, or, in sugar-coated words, the godmother of her child. It all made sense to me. I told Grandma about how she had tried to convince Andrew to use that money for themselves, which Mom has saved for my future education. Grandma suggested I hire a lawyer and warned against Gloria because she would retaliate after what happened, even though it was just an accident. To cheer me up, she baked a cake. Then I remembered that my special day was ruined, and I was in tears. After about 3 days, I get a letter that contained restraining orders and a date for a court hearing. The case was filed against me for inflicting Gloria with emotional distress over her pregnancy. And I've also decided that I won't back down and will file a case against her for embezzlement of my funds. My emotional distress was due to the revelation of her truth and not because of me. I called my family lawyer, who had informed me about my funds and explained my situation, asking him to file a report of fund embezzlement against Gloria. He told me to meet up on the date of the court hearing. Update number 3. This is the post from Gloria's perspective. Let's jump into it. Hey guys, I'm Gloria, and thanks for all the hate and mean comments. Everybody just thinks. Andrea is a pure soul that she sacrificed herself up until now, huh? So let me remind you that your pure soul, Andrea, was the one who left me screaming when Andrew asked for help calling an ambulance. She was the one who was responsible for the fact that I landed in the hospital and my newborn's hospitalized and is in critical condition. And she never bothered to come back, not for my sake, but for the infant who just came into this world and who was no fault in the mess that we adults are stuck in. I lost my cool when she cursed my child, and her words resonated quite well, which brought such a traumatic condition upon us. As a parent, you can imagine how painful it is to see your newborn under a ventilator. I'm writing this to you at the hospital as seen as I get my senses, and to share my side of the story, well, maybe I was not perfect, but neither is Andrea. Oh, Andrew was under so much pressure that he was already struggling financially. When Andrea came up and made things worse, I have so much to tell you, so let me give you a brief overview of the beginning so you can better judge for yourself. When I met Andrew, he was such a loner and a bit rebellious. Later, when our friendship developed, I found how neglected he felt in his personal life. Ever since he was born, his parents also just wanted a girl, and when they did, he was completely excluded from the picture. He was the best when in company, and it did not take us long before we got emotionally close to each other. I knew that his younger sister was the favorite one, and when his dad left him, he still did not get attention from his mother because she was always busy being a mother to his sister. Andrew kept himself busy with responsibilities to distract himself from his emotional distress. As a result, Andrea turned out to be a little bratty and stubborn kid whose demands were filled without even asking. Most of his frustration and anger towards his mom was directed at poor Andrea. Even though he knew that it wasn't her fault that she was the favorite one, it was his parents. After his mother's death, his grandmother's main concern was for his sister, and Andrew was still ignored by her. I was the only one who stood by him when he was suffering from pain and loss, but after their mother's death, he had never been bossy or mean to Andrea. In fact, I liked Andrea. To my surprise, she was really sweet, shy, and timid, but in pain, The only person with whom I had a problem with was their grandmother. My great-grandmother-in-law. She held her perception towards me as a selfish person just because I was, well, a little more concerned for Andrew due to their constant neglect. And she just behaved like a typical mother-in-law. Andrea was close to her, constantly kept feeding her the nonsense against me that she had in her mind. I thought that after getting married, Andrew and I could start our family together, even though that was not possible because I kept getting repeated miscarriages and complications and all sorts of things, trying to deliver the baby. We were already devastated because of it, and I appreciated having Andrea beside me when I was going through that tough time. She helped me with my daily task, and finally, when I was able to conceive, Andrea had her exams, and I was anxious that any single mistake could cost harm. But finally, because of my medical consolation and Andrea being by my side, I was able to carry my pregnancy for longer. However, I made it to the 7th and Andrea started getting on my nerves. Honestly, I was quite shocked that a bratty, stubborn kid like Andrea actually had the brains to score well. And in response, she started insisting Andrew let her take admission to the desired college, which was far from home. Andrea does not know that her brat attitude would make it difficult to go through college, and she also doesn't have the ability to finish the degree that she was pursuing. But she crossed her limits when she ran from home, and Andrew was devastated when he could not find her until, he found a text message from her. She did not pick up the call for 3 days, and we only got her updates through the grandmother. When she was back, I somehow forgave her for her notorious act and persuaded her to withdraw from the degree, which would be quite useless to her. She's better at home, doing menial chores. I had no issue with Andrea as long as she is an obedient girl, and as a reward, I promised her to be the godmother of my baby. Andrew was not doing well because it was my 8th month, and his financial pressures were increasing to meet medical expenses, and he's lost his mind when he was fired from his job. I tried to convince him that he could use the money that was named below, education funds. That was where Andrea's meanness revealed in front of me. She never thought twice that her actions might have impacted somebody's life. How can I let her go just now when she left me in the room, dying in pain? So I filed a case against her as soon as I got discharged for causing me emotional and mental distress during pregnancy. Final update. Hey guys, it was the day of judgment, and I vented out everything that I've been through, along with the post that she shared on the platform where she mentioned that a baby could be conceived again, but her lifetime opportunity just won't be coming back. I used all her social media accounts against her and my side of the story. When it was her turn, she did not have any evidence to prove that I planned to embezzle her educational funds for the sake of education. Andrea, in her defense, said that it was all an accident and whatever she said only because she lost in her rage. When she found that I wanted to take the entire amount of her frustration, she sabotaged her career as if she had any. Her degree and education were useless for a dumb person like her, and I did not hesitate to confess about that as well. Also, after what happened, I didn't want Andrea to stay with me because I couldn't risk my newborn child around her, who has such anger issues. Well, things worked in both favor to some extent, since Andrea was still in her teens and her anger issues were not taking into much regard. As she was just pursuing graduation, she cannot pay the fine for the harm done. But her right to receive any financial help from Andrew was completely canceled, and she was not allowed to stay with us anymore as per the restraining orders. Andrea has no regrets about leaving us as well. Though she had lost the case of funding embezzlement, she was still allowed to receive the money under her name because she could afford a better lawyer than us, who won the family case. And Grandma was already on her side anyways. Andrew missed Andrea leaving them, but he could not forget what she did with their upcoming child. Top comments from the final update. Comment number 1. OP, you've done the right thing. Andrea doesn't deserve to be you. You did everything to reward her for whatever she did to you, either good or bad, and your husband's taken care of her since their father left. He did no wrong when he thought of taking some money for himself during such an emergency. Andrea has clearly overreacted, and her selfishness has emerged when she denied you to borrow her money from her education fund. What is the use of such a fund when you can't afford a job to pay back for it? Comment number 2. OP, your grudges over Andrea is completely fine, but the way that you talked about her and having an education was really mean and selfish. You only wanted her because she would remain a house servant to you and nothing much. If you actually needed the money you've asked her directly, she would have lent you something. But the way you talked about her behind her back shows how you truly felt about her, and hence she fumed in anger. Also, when you got furious, you forgot your water broke. How could you not be bothered about your child and still focusing on her at that point? That was completely your fault. Next time, focus on your kid.